Their emotions were like a floodgate breaking. Once opened, there was no containing the torrent. He and Cassandra were tangled together, a reckless, seamless blur from dusk until deep into the night. He pulled her into his arms, and they melted into another endless night of warmth and whispers. Morning. As the sun rose, golden light poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a scene of utter chaos. The bedroom, crisp and tidy just yesterday, was now a beautiful disaster. "Time to get up, sleepyhead," Liam said, a smile in his voice as he gave Cassandra's slender waist a playful pinch. Cassandra stirred, murmuring with reluctance, "My back hurts." "I wonder why, you little monster. Take a look at what you did yesterday." Liam glanced around at the wreckage of the room with a look of helpless exasperation. She was impossibly dominant when it came to that, refusing to let him stop for what felt like an eternity. And for some reason, once he got started, he couldn't seem to find the off switch either. It had been pure, unrestrained indulgence. But far from feeling repulsed, he actually felt invigorated. "I'm seriously messed up," Liam thought with a sudden clarity. "Here, let me help," he offered, gently turning her over and placing his hands on the small of her back. He began to knead with a firm, steady pressure. MMM. A few minutes later, Cassandra slowly drifted awake. Her eyes were still heavy with sleep as she hooked her arm around Liam's, pulling his hand against her. As his palm met her warmth, Liam swallowed hard. "Don't tell me. You want to go again?" His tone made it sound like she was forcing him. Cassandra's eyes narrowed, and she peered at him through her lashes, a new spark igniting. "What's wrong? Can't handle it." "Huh." A cold, dangerous smirk touched Liam's lips as he met her gaze. "Hilarious. Who are you calling can't handle it?" Cassandra, however, seemed oblivious to the warning signs. "Who else will I be talking about?" She shot back, completely undaunted. Fine. So I can't handle it, is that right?" Liam's eyes flashed, and his fingers darted to her waist, tickling her relentlessly. "Ack!" Cassandra shrieked, her body convulsing with laughter. "Ha, stop, don't. I was wrong, ha." In that moment, she wasn't the imperious heiress of the Thorne family. She was just a girl, a big sister figure reduced to helpless giggles. She writhed on the bed like a dragon, twisting the sheets into a knotted mess, her forehead beaded with sweat. But Liam was merciless. "So you admit you were wrong?" "Stop, please. I'm sorry, I'm begging you." He finally let go when he saw tears of laughter streaming from her eyes. "Huh." Cassandra gasped for breath, now wide awake. After a moment, she fixed Liam with a look of pure retribution. "You just wait, Liam Lynn. You just wait." With a mock snarl, she lunged at him, ready to repay him in kind. Liam, not expecting her to have any energy left, was caught off guard and easily pinned to the bed. No, hey. "Milady, can we please eat first?" Ha, stop messing around. You started it. "I'm gonna mess with you all day," Cassandra declared, her hands never stopping until Liam was as sweaty and breathless as she had been. Finally, she relented. "I'm hungry too," she said, patting her stomach and smacking her lips. "Then let's get some food," Liam said, wiping the sweat from his brow as he sat up. "After that, we head back." "Deal," Cassandra nodded. After showering, they had a lavish breakfast in the hotel restaurant, then boarded a private jet back to Las Vegas. Outside the Crimson Shell Hotel and Casino, Evelyn Reed held a black umbrella over Cassandra, but Cassandra's gaze was fixed solely on Liam, her expression etched with worry. "Are you sure you can do this alone?" "Yeah," Liam nodded. "Trust me, if you get involved, it'll only make things worse." "Fine." Cassandra's eyes darkened for a moment before she looked at him again, her tone shifting to one of absolute, imperious command. "Don't let her touch you. Not a single finger. Don't go anywhere with her. You have 30 minutes. If you're not back by then, I'm sending my people in to tear that room apart." The long list of prohibitions was giving him a headache, but compared to everything else, he could handle this new version of Cassandra. If she was the only one he had to deal with, he could manage. Any more than that, and he'd be in over his head. He had no energy to be a player. It was a complete waste of time. So, he nodded obediently. Okay. Don't worry. As soon as she lets Chloe and Leo go, I'll make things crystal clear with her." "Good." Cassandra's expression reverted to its usual, icy mask. She lifted her chin and strode proudly toward the hotel entrance. Liam glanced up at the glass windows of the upper floors, sighed, and followed her inside. The moment he stepped in the lobby, he saw a familiar face in the lounge area. Rory, who was rarely seen away from her bar. "Liam, you're back," Rory said with a warm, knowing smile. "Yeah," Liam replied. Rory's eyes twinkled with mischief. "How come you're not with Miss Thorne? I just saw her go up alone." Did you two have a fight? No. Liam shook his head, changing the subject. Rory, do you know what room Sylvia Shaw is in? Suite 708. Rory answered, her expression making it clear she understood everything. She gave his shoulder a friendly pat. Liam, my friend, you really need to get your love life sorted out. I mean, Ms. Shaw might be a little older, but she's gorgeous. You're a lucky guy. Two beautiful, powerful women chasing after him. How is that not lucky? She imagined herself with two handsome men, one cold and aloof, the other a protective big brother type, vying for her attention. She'd be in heaven. Liam's mouth twitched. People who hadn't been through it just didn't understand. Being caught between two women like this was a nightmare, especially since neither of them was exactly a pushover. He sighed. Come on, Rory, don't make fun of me. I'm about to lose my mind. Rory just winked. Oh, so you know your big sis likes a little drama? Huh? Go on up. Suite 708. Don't get lost. Liam mumbled a thank you and headed for the elevator, a sense of dread settling over him. Outside Suite 708, the door was already open. Sylvia, having seen him approach through the peephole, had ordered it unlocked. Liam stepped inside. Directly across the room, Sylvia was sitting on the sofa, her face a thundercloud as she glared at the coffee table. So you decided to come back. Whether I come back or not is none of your damn business, was the retort that sprang to his lips. But he bit it back. His friends, his sister, they were still in her hands. Now was not the time to provoke her. But when Sylvia, hearing no reply, finally lifted her gaze to him, her eyes immediately locked onto his neck. The scattered, faint red marks stood out like a declaration of war. Who did this? I'm asking you, who did this? Was it her? In an instant, the powder keg ignited. Sylvia's fury erupted, and she shot up from the sofa, striding directly toward Liam. Following her furious gaze, Liam glanced down and realized she was staring at the hickeys. He was about to speak when she lunged forward and grabbed him by the collar. She dared to lay a hand on you? She's asking to die. All traces of her former gentleness had vanished. Sylvia's eyes were wide, fixated on the crimson marks. Her fingers clenched his shirt so tightly the fabric strained and warped in her grip. Liam had never seen her like this. It was a stark, terrifying departure from the warm, kind woman he remembered. Her expression, it was unervingly similar to how Cassandra used to be. An image of Cassandra's imperious face flashed through his mind, followed by the memory of their playful wrestling that morning. Lost in thought, he didn't answer. Sylvia saw his distant gaze and realized he wasn't even listening. She yanked him violently, forcing his head down so he was looking directly at her. I'm talking to you, Liam. Can't you hear me? She still used his name, the name from their childhood, but her tone was laced with pure venom. Liam's eyes hardened. He reached up, grabbing her wrist through the fabric of his shirt, and forcefully tore her hand away. Ms. Shaw, I think you've already seen everything you need to see. Why bother asking? His expression was utterly flat, his voice devoid of any emotion. Thrown off balance, Sylvia stumbled backward, nearly falling. She stared at her freed hand in disbelief, then shrieked at him, her voice raw with rage. Is that what you have to say to me? Is this the reason you ran from our wedding? You've been in love with her this whole time, haven't you? She accused, her eyes filling with tears as she stalked toward him. The only reason you fled our engagement party was because you love her. Is that right? This frantic, unhinged display. Liam had only ever seen it from Cassandra. Sylvia's face was reflected in his eyes, but his mind uncontrollably replaced it with Cassandra's. He didn't know when it started, but any time he encountered something that reminded him of Cassandra, she was all he could see. Love really is a disease, he thought. Liam frowned, squeezed his eyes shut, and then opened them again. Ms. Shaw, I think you misunderstood. I didn't run away because of her, but for leaving you at the altar like that. For that, I should apologize. Apologize? Sylvia let out a strangled, hysterical laugh. Ha ha ha, Liam. So all you have to say to me is sorry? Why should you apologize to me? I don't accept it. She clutched her chest, her eyes red-rimmed as she pointed a trembling finger at him. It all comes down to this. You love her. You're in love with her, so you were willing to abandon me, to make me the laughingstock of the entire world. The groom runs away on the day of the engagement party, and his true love blows up the venue. How ironic. You have no right to apologize. You're not qualified. I will never accept it. She mumbled, shaking her head like a psychiatric patient who had lost her grip on reality. The Shaw family couldn't compare to the Thorns, but they were still a renowned pharmaceutical dynasty. Sylvia had been raised in the lap of luxury, her aristocratic air an innate part of her. But now, this extreme, undignified breakdown was a shocking contrast that made her seem almost pitiful. Yet, there was no trace of pity on Liam's face. He watched her coldly. Ms. Shaw, just because I'm apologizing doesn't mean I'm the only one at fault. I think you know exactly what you and Lawrence Landon were doing behind my back. You disregarded my wishes from start. What right did you have to expect me to obey? He had wanted to have a reasonable conversation, but her current state made that impossible. All he could do was state his side of the truth. Whether she accepted, it was her choice. Besides, while their collusion with Lawrence hadn't been overt, he wasn't an idiot. If you want respect, you have to give it first. But Sylvia was no longer listening to reason. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at him with a desperate, crazed plea. What is it that you love about Cassandra Thorne? Tell me. Whatever she can do, I can do too. If I can't, I'll learn. As long as you can love me the way you love her, I'll learn. I'll go to the ends of the earth. I will learn. This has nothing to do with Cassandra. Liam snapped, his patience gone. But the moment the words left his mouth, he saw Sylvia's tear-streaked face and froze. He had seen that exact same expression on Cassandra. It was the night she was drunk, when she had interrogated him with that same manic energy, her words dripping with a desperate, humiliating vulnerability. She was like a lost dog, abandoned and stripped of all dignity. The thought of that expression on Cassandra's face made his chest tighten. He felt a wave of relief that she had been drunk that night. He could write it off as a drunken outburst. If Cassandra ever truly looked at him with that kind of heart-wrenching despair, he knew it would break his heart. But to Sylvia, his words were just another blow. Her face fell into deeper despair. You're still protecting her. You're already defending her. Liam, what am I to you? Do my feelings for you for all these years mean absolutely nothing? To Liam, her desperate clinging just felt irrational. It was in his nature to be cold and detached from everyone. The only people he tolerated were those he had an emotional connection to. For everyone else, they had to offer something of value to earn his patience. And right now, Sylvia's value was zero. Aside from the faint, distant memory of their childhood friendship, there was almost nothing left. But that friendship was enough to stop him from being completely merciless. First of all, Ms. Shaw, we were close as children, but that's not a good enough reason for this to continue. Second, things change. My life for the past decade isn't something I can just explain away in a few sentences. I'm grateful your family took me in when I was young, but by the same token, I didn't ask you to go through any of this for me. It was a roundabout way of speaking, but the core message was simple. Your feelings are your problem. It's not my fault you've been in love with me for this long. So what the hell does it have to do with me? Clearly, Sylvia understood. She stared at him, dumbfounded. So you're saying, this is all my fault? I deserve this. I never said that, Liam said, expertly deflecting the blame. Sylvia just shook her head numbly, muttering, You're right. I wasn't a part of your life for all those years. What right do I have to make you love me? I deserve this. I deserve all of it. As she mumbled, a possessive fire suddenly sparked in her eyes. It doesn't matter. I have medicine. All I have to do is scramble your memories. All I have to do is make sure I meet you again, just a little sooner than she did. Even if I have to do it 10,000 times, I will make you fall in love with me. Her words were bizarre and unsettling, and a chill ran down Liam's spine. What are you going to do? A strange, unsettling smile curved Sylvia's lips. The reputation of the Shaw family as pharmaceutical masters is not just for show. She gazed at him with an unnerving fondness. Don't worry, Liam. It won't hurt. Just for a little while. We'll administer it, and it'll be over in a moment. As she spoke, she gestured to the bodyguards at her side. Two men moved forward instantly, grabbing Liam's arms. Liam didn't struggle, not because he couldn't fight them, but because he needed to know what happened to Leo and Chloe. Until he had answers, he wouldn't make a move. He frowned. Ms. Shaw, can I ask where you've taken Leo and Chloe? Sylvia pointed a finger toward a back room, the smile on her face widening. They're just sleeping. I gave them some sedative powder. You can rest assured. Sedative powder? What's that? Liam's brow furrowed. It didn't sound like anything good. It's something that induces a deep sleep. Without the antidote, they'll sleep for 7 days and 7 nights, and then they'll pass away in their dreams. Sylvia's smile was chillingly sweet as she looked up at him. See? I'm being very considerate, aren't I? Completely painless. Sylvia was insane, even more unhinged than Cassandra. Even at her most threatening, Cassandra had never been this crazy. Liam desperately wanted to understand why these women had fallen for him, loved him to the point of madness, to the absolute extreme. He couldn't bear the weight of this kind of love. At this point, his only option was to play along. Coax her, keep her happy, and maybe she'd give him the antidote. But he knew that once you gave in, it would happen again and again. He couldn't spend his whole life compromising. When he'd faced Cassandra, he'd reached a point where he wasn't even afraid of death. Did she really think he would be afraid of her? So, right there, in front of Sylvia, Liam started to laugh. His laughter was even more unhinged than hers. It was as if a switch had been flipped, and he couldn't stop. He laughed until tears streamed from his eyes. His loud, booming ha's echoed through the room, cutting through Sylvia's progression from anger to humility to resolve, and finally, to confusion. It was the sound of genuine, soul-deep mockery, as if he had seen through everything. It sent a fresh wave of fury through her. She grabbed a handful of his hair, yanking his head back to force him to look at her. "What are you laughing at?" she demanded. "I'm laughing at how stupid you are." I'm laughing at how incredibly stupid you are, Sylvia. What makes you think you can control me?" Amid his laughter, Liam stared her down, his wild, untamed gaze stabbing into her heart. "You think I can't control you? They are your most important friends," she roared, her grip tightening. But then her tone softened. "As long as you're a good boy and listen to me, I won't hurt them. I'll give them just enough of the antidote each day to keep them stable." Otherwise, before she could finish, Liam cut her off ruthlessly. "It seems you don't know me very well, Ms. Shaw." Even with his scalp aching from her grip, he narrowed his eyes, the danger in them palpable. As Sylvia stared in shock, he spoke without a shred of emotion. "I never considered them my friends. Impossible. You're lying. Maybe Leo, but Chloe is your sister." Sylvia screamed in disbelief. Liam's mocking laughter only grew louder. "My sister? So what? You think I care about a little thing like blood? Don't be ridiculous, Ms. Shaw. The only person in this world I care about is myself." Sylvia stared at him, her eyes wide with shock, as if looking at a complete stranger. It was true. He didn't even care about their childhood bond. Why would he care about this? How could she have been so stupid to think she could use other people to control him? Her only option was to trap him, to force him step by step to develop feelings for her. Seeing the despair in her eyes, Liam's sneer deepened. "Sorry to disappoint you, Ms. Shaw. This is who I am. So I suggest you stop wasting your time. If they die." He paused, his eyes darkening. Then he delivered his signature line with an air of absolute finality. "What the hell does that have to do with me?" The atmosphere froze. Sylvia narrowed her eyes and abruptly gestured for the bodyguards to stand down. Liam rubbed his shoulders, breathing a small sigh of relief. But then, Sylvia's eyes snapped open as if she'd just woken up. "Wait." A thought seemed to strike her, and she stared intently at Liam. "You're lying to me." Her eyes seemed to pierce right through him, straight to his soul. Liam's gaze flickered for a second before he said flatly, "What would I be lying about? Do I have any reason to lie to you?" A cold smile spread across Sylvia's face. "If you truly didn't care about them, you wouldn't be here today." The moment she said it, Liam knew he was screwed. This was bad. Sylvia was on a completely different level than Cassandra. When he pulled this act on Cassandra, she'd been stumped. But Sylvia was still thinking rationally. Seeing the flicker of shock in Liam's eyes, Sylvia's conviction grew stronger. She advanced on him, her cold smile unwavering. "You just talk a big game. Deep down, you're still a good person. You were betting that I wouldn't actually do anything to them, which is why you waited until this morning to come back. That little speech was just a bluff to make me think I had no leverage. I'm right, aren't I, Liam?" It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. Liam's heart sank. No wonder. The woman was a few years older than him. Of course, she'd be harder to fool. He glanced at the clock on the wall. 20 minutes had passed since his agreed-upon meeting time with Cassandra. He had 10 minutes left. He said in a low voice, "So what if you are? Go on, let them die." "Huh." Sylvia let out a cold laugh, her lips curling slightly. Her tone softened as she reached out and lovingly stroked his cheek. "Why would I do that? Without them, how could I threaten you? Liam, why would I be so cruel?" A wolf in sheep's clothing. The phrase described Sylvia perfectly. This kind of person was incredibly difficult to deal with. At that moment, Liam found himself missing Cassandra's love-addled brain. When she got worked up, she threw all reason to the wind. She'd even learned to respect him in her quest to possess him. The thought of Cassandra's face brought a strange pang of longing. He sighed. "So, what is it you really want?" "For you to love me," she whispered, her hand still on his cheek. The calmness in her eyes was gone, replaced by a gathering, frenzied storm. "Impossible," Liam said without a moment's hesitation, his voice firm and final. Sylvia didn't get angry. Instead, she smiled. "Is that so? How do you know if you don't even try?" She caressed his cheek gently, but as her fingers slid lower, Liam grabbed her wrist. "Ms. Shaw, you're crossing a line," Liam warned, his face impassive. He was perfectly clear-headed right now. He didn't like her, and he would never let her have him. How was this crossing a line? Sylvia's eyes glinted with an unreadable light. She stared at the wrist Liam was gripping, her expression growing even softer. We used to bathe together when we were little. Have you forgotten? Hearing her murmur those words, Liam's brow tightened. The memory was too distant. He couldn't recall it all. Bathe together? For someone to have allowed that. He couldn't have been more than 2 years old. How could I possibly remember something from that long ago? He said coldly, once again flinging her hand away without a shred of mercy. Staring at her rejected hand, Sylvia's eyes darkened. It's okay. It's okay if you don't remember. We just have to reenact it. We just have to make you experience it one more time. As she whispered, she raised a hand. The 2 bodyguards at her side lunged forward, seizing Liam by the shoulders. Sylvia's face was grim. She stared at Liam and gave a chilling command. Take him to the bathroom and strip him. The order stunned not only the bodyguards, but Liam as well. What? She was just going to have him dragged to the bathroom? Did that mean everything he just said had gone in one ear and out the other? All that talking had been for nothing. Liam instinctively tensed his arms and felt the bodyguard's grips tighten. He narrowed his eyes, looking straight at Sylvia with a threatening edge to his voice. Ms. Shaw, I have made it perfectly clear that I do not like you. Are you sure you want to do this? Sylvia raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms and smiling at him. You're only saying that now. Liam, I know you like me. You just don't want to admit it. It's okay. I can wait. We have plenty of time. You might have plenty of time, but I'm running out of it. Liam glanced at the clock on the wall. He knew that nothing he said now would get through to Sylvia. He had become an obsession for her, one she could never obtain. And the more she was denied, the more she wanted him. Once an obsession takes root, no one else in the world matters. That was the reality. In that case, there was no point in talking anymore. Done with pretending to be weak, Liam whipped the leg back and up, kicking the bodyguard on his left squarely where it counted. As the man grunted in pain and his grip loosened, Liam spun around and drove his fist into the face of the bodyguard on his right. 2 simple, fluid motions, and both men were on the ground, unable to get up. He rubbed his shoulder and looked at Sylvia. She was standing there calmly, as if she had expected it all along. He was surprised. You're not shocked. What's there to be shocked about? A cold smile touched Sylvia's placid face. If you couldn't even handle them, how could you be worthy of my affection? Liam was speechless. Seriously, he was silent. Had Sylvia completely missed the point? He had just taken down her people. But if she wasn't surprised, then fine. Liam had no intention of staying anyway. He turned, placed his hand on the doorknob, and said coolly, I've said what I needed to say. Ms. Shaw, if you come to your senses, please give them the antidote. If anything happens to them, I think we'll become enemies. He was about to press the handle down and pull the door open, but Sylvia's voice stopped him from behind. Is that so? Her voice was dark, but her face was twisted in a mocking smile. She stared at him. Do you really think I won't touch them? She took several steps closer, placing her hand over his on the doorknob. Liam, you're too naive. If you dare walk out that door today, I will have them killed immediately. Her hand was light. The choice to open the door was entirely his. Liam looked down at Sylvia's face. The look of absolute certainty was no joke. But how could Liam possibly give in so easily? Staring at her, he smiled. You'd do that, even if it makes us enemies? Sylvia smiled back. All I want is a place in your heart, even if it's hate. What's wrong with that? She really was crazier than Cassandra. At least on her path to possessing him, Cassandra would never do anything that would genuinely hurt him. Liam sighed and let his hand fall from the doorknob. The smile in Sylvia's eyes deepened. She looked at the defeated Liam with immense satisfaction, clearly ready to start issuing her commands. Liam's eyes flickered, and he smiled. Ms. Shaw, have you considered one thing? What? As things stand, Cassandra Thorne likes me. If she and I were to team up against you, what would you do? It was the most obvious leverage he had, his one trump card. And Cassandra was that card. He could say it with such confidence because, over the past few days, he had truly felt her love. She had given him everything. Sylvia let out a cold laugh, as if she had been prepared for this question. She walked toward the sofa, saying, Do you know where we are? Here. The question was so out of left field that Liam was momentarily stunned, but he quickly recovered. Las Vegas. And do you know what's closest to Las Vegas? The Mojave. Liam muttered, frowning. He was starting to understand what she was getting at. Sylvia smoothed her skirt and sat down on the sofa, radiating an air of nobility. She smiled sweetly. My family is based on Solara Island. In other words, this is all my territory. Shaw Pharma may have only taken off in recent years, but my family's roots here run deep. She turned her head sharply to look at him. On my home turf, Do you really think Cassandra Thorne can beat me? So what if she had a helicopter? That was only because her family was far away. If she were closer, Sylvia could summon one too. Liam was speechless. What the hell was wrong with these people? They were both incredibly powerful. Why couldn't they find someone in their own league to play with? Why were they so fixated on him? He glanced at the time. Fine, Ms. Shaw. Cassandra only gave me 30 minutes to meet with you. Time's almost up. She'll be here any second. So what's your plan now? Are you going to take me and jump into the ocean? The fact that Liam would even tell her these things, did that mean she was more important to him than Cassandra? Sylvia's face instantly lit up. That's not a bad idea. If you're willing, I'll have a boat brought over right now. We can leave immediately. He was just posing a hypothetical question, but she had actually taken it seriously. Liam was at a loss for words. After a moment of stunned silence, he asked, "What about Chloe and Leo? We'll have the bodyguards carry them aboard." Sylvia said, already pulling out her phone and tapping out a message, her eyes shining with excitement. "As long as you're willing to come back with me, I'm sure Mom and Dad will be overjoyed. You have no idea how much they've missed you." Liam was completely out of things to say. He had fallen into the hands of another madwoman. It was an awful feeling. The suffocating sensation of being controlled washed over him again. "I can go with you," Liam said after a moment, choosing to compromise for now. Seeing the surprise in Sylvia's eyes, he added in a serious tone, "But you have to give me some time to think about it." He shouldn't have said that. The moment the words left his mouth, the delight on Sylvia's face vanished, replaced by a dark cloud. "I'm not giving you any time to think. If you need to think, you can do it here. You're not going anywhere today." What a joke. Did he think he could pull the same escape trick twice? Impossible. It wouldn't matter who came for him today. No one was taking Liam from her. Liam knew this was the consequence of deceiving her last time. He softened his tone, trying to reason with her. "Ms. Shaw, this is all too fast. I promise I won't run. The only reason I asked for time to think is because I don't want to be disingenuous with you. I take my promises to you very seriously." Flattery always worked, as words made Sylvia's heart sore. But she wasn't a fool. She gestured for Liam to sit on the sofa across from her and commanded, "Then think here. I'll give you time." Liam was exasperated. What kind of time is that? He heard the sound of urgent footsteps in the hallway outside and knew Cassandra had arrived. His eyes darkened. "Ms. Shaw, she's here. Let's see you act so tough with her in the room." Sylvia put down her phone, an unexpected cold smile spreading across her face. Perfect timing. "Open the door." "She wants me to open the door?" Liam raised an eyebrow, but at this point, only Cassandra could break the suffocating tension. With a deep breath, he pulled the door open. Cassandra stood there, having changed into a black leather jacket. Her face was an icy mask. When she saw Liam and Sylvia standing far apart, her expression softened slightly. She strode in on her high heels, walked right up to Liam in front of Sylvia, and shamelessly wrapped her arms around his neck. Her voice a soft, suggestive purr. "What took you so long? I was getting impatient." Cassandra's audacity was astounding. To be so handsy with Liam right in front of her, it was outrageous. Sylvia couldn't stay seated. She shot up and rushed forward, her tone sharp. "Let go of him." Cassandra narrowed her eyes, her gentle expression instantly turning glacial. "Let go? I'm hugging my boyfriend. When did I need your permission?" "Who's your boyfriend?" "He's my fiancé." Sylvia was livid. She pointed at Cassandra, her voice trembling with rage. "Ms. Thorne, this behavior, stealing another woman's man, is utterly shameful." "Stealing?" A glint appeared in Cassandra's eyes. Not only did she not remove her arms, but she also stood on her tiptoes and planted a light kiss on his cheek. She then looked at Sylvia with a triumphant, provocative smirk. "So what if I did? You know these marks on his neck? I put them there." "You." Barely restraining the urge to lunge forward and claw at Cassandra's face, Sylvia hissed, "You're shameless." "Who's the shameless one here? Didn't Liam tell you he doesn't like you?" "A desperate clinger like you is the real definition of shameless," Cassandra retorted, her lips curling. She tightened her arm around Liam's, pulling him closer to her, and looking at Sylvia with smug satisfaction. The air crackled with tension. Caught in the middle, Liam felt like a prop, but he knew the truth. Cassandra was the real tool here, his tool to counterbalance Sylvia. He stayed silent, watching to see how things would unfold and trying to figure out his next escape route. Sylvia took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. Her eyes were glued to the red marks on Liam's neck. Those should have been hers, but someone else had gotten there first, and that someone was the very person who had ruined her engagement party. There was no way she could swallow this insult. "Liam, you told her everything, right?" Cassandra finally turned her attention back to Liam. "Yeah, I made it all clear," he nodded. He had made it clear But whether Sylvia had understood or whether she chose to accept it was another matter entirely. His answer was all Cassandra needed. It meant he was on her side. The anxiety that had been building inside her vanished, replaced by a wave of elation. Since everything is clear, there's no reason to stay here. Let's go. As she spoke, her gaze drifted over Sylvia, a glint of triumph in her eyes. She added for effect, I'm craving the scrambled eggs with tomato you make. You even cooked for her? Sylvia exploded like a lit fuse. She glared at Liam, her voice a furious snarl. You dare. Liam, if you walk out that door, they die. They? Cassandra caught the key word. Connecting it to what she had overheard yesterday, she understood immediately. Ms. Shaw, have you no shame? How can you use someone's most precious people as leverage? For a second, Liam was speechless. He stared at Cassandra in disbelief, shocked to hear those words coming from her mouth. But, given the current situation, it was strangely appropriate. So what if I do? Now is Sylvia's turn to be smug. As long as it's effective, I don't care if it's shameless or not. Cassandra snorted, looking at Sylvia with disdain. Do you have any idea who you're threatening? Of course I do. The great and powerful Thorne family. Sylvia sneered. But so what? You can destroy my family, but can you get the antidote? When the Shaw family creates a poison, only we have a cure. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. Liam, if you dare to leave, they will die. Guarantee. The tension in the room became unbearable. Liam remained silent, his eyes fixed on Cassandra. His next move would depend entirely on her reaction. If the Thorne family was powerless here, it would be a last resort. He would have to handle this himself. But then, a low, dangerous laugh escaped Cassandra's lips. Her beautiful face took on a perilous edge as she looked at Sylvia, as if sizing up a lamb for slaughter. Is that so? She purred, her eyes glinting with murderous intent. Faced with such overwhelming pressure, Sylvia showed no fear. She remained defiant. What? You want to kill me? If you do, the Shaw and Thorne families will be mortal enemies. She had the poison. She had Leo and Chloe. She had nothing to fear. Unless Liam was willing to abandon them. But the chances of that were almost zero. The fact that he was here today, that Cassandra had even allowed him to come, meant he would never forsake his friends. And Sylvia's prediction was correct. If this were about anyone else, Cassandra wouldn't have cared. Their lives were irrelevant to her. But they were Liam's friends. And no matter what, she could no longer ignore Liam's feelings. Cassandra looked up at Liam and said something she had never said before. Liam, you make the decision. I will respect your choice. Me? Liam was stunned. He never would have expected Cassandra, after holding back for so long, to say something like that. He looked at her earnest face in disbelief. Her eyes reflected his own image, and in the moment she spoke those words, he realized that Cassandra had truly changed. She was no longer the imperious, self-absorbed heiress who only cared about her own desires. She was starting to consider his feelings. In that instant, he saw a soft light glowing behind the icy mask of her face. It was the gentle light of humanity. Liam's expression sobered. For the first time, he gave Cassandra a genuine, heartfelt smile and nodded firmly. Then he turned to Sylvia. You want me to compromise? Fine. But as I said, I need time to think. The words were a clear step back, a concession. Sylvia narrowed her eyes, studying him, but didn't immediately agree. Liam added another condition. Give me a room just for me. You can both post guards outside the door. I won't run. Cassandra didn't quite understand what he was planning, but she smiled and hooked her arm through his. You don't need guards. I trust you. Her words were like gasoline on a fire for Sylvia. Seeing them arm in arm, so intimate, made her grind her teeth in fury. She trusts you, but I don't, she snapped. I accept your terms. But you have 1 hour. Not a second more. After 1 hour. Understand, Liam nodded. Fine. Then please make the arrangements, Ms. Shaw. He shot a reassuring glance at Cassandra. Her expression softened, and she released his arm. Leaning in, she whispered in his ear, Tell me if you need anything. With that, she turned and left. Seeing their intimate whisper, Sylvia's face went pale with rage. She glared at Liam, forcing herself to stay calm, repeating a mantra in her head. It's fine. It's all fine. The card she held was unbeatable. She just had to wait 1 hour. After that, Liam would be hers. And then, she could do whatever she wanted. As arranged by Sylvia, Rory quickly prepared a new room for Liam. He walked alongside Sylvia to the door, silent the entire way. Sylvia opened the door for him, a threatening smile on her face. Liam, I'll be waiting for your answer. Don't disappoint me. Liam didn't reply. He walked inside and shut the door behind him. The world suddenly went quiet. For the first time in what felt like forever, Liam felt a profound sense of peace. Without even taking off his shoes, he went straight to the bed and leaned back against the headboard, lacing his hands behind his head. He began to carefully think through everything that had happened recently. He used to think Cassandra was his biggest threat. Now, he realized the real danger was someone else entirely. From what he knew of Sylvia, she was clearly a ruthless person, and she wasn't as easy to fool as Cassandra. If he just walked away, Leo and Chloe would die. That was a certainty. Sylvia's actions had been completely beyond his expectations. And what about Lawrence Landon? He hadn't made his move yet, but his methods would be even more brutal than Sylvia's. Chloe and Leo had families. He had once told them to learn how to use the internet to protect themselves, but those tools became useless the moment Cassandra blew up the Landon estate. All they wanted was him. The one question that remained was, what did Lawrence Landon truly want? Liam's brow furrowed as he stared at the ceiling. After a long moment of contemplation, his gaze hardened with resolve. It was time to make a bet. He would bet that Lawrence wanted him, too. And if he won that bet, he knew exactly what his next move would be. I want a full workup on the Shaw family's corporate holdings. Tell my father I want a coordinated attack launched within 3 days. Squeeze them. The moment Cassandra returned to her room, her face turned to ice. Her voice was cold as she gave her orders to Evelyn. Yes, ma'am. Evelyn nodded, then added, Miss, I've already reported the situation to Mr. Thorne. He said he will use every resource at his disposal to crush the Shaw family. Cassandra looked up, her voice frigid. Good. She said nothing more, walking silently to the sofa. Seeing her mistress's cold, forbidding demeanor, Evelyn couldn't help but ask, Miss, with Shaw Pharma using poison to force Mr. Lynn's hand, I'm afraid his final choice. She was trying to warn her mistress not to get in too deep. This kind of tactic was too insidious. The final decision was out of Liam's hands. But it was obvious her warning was useless. Cassandra was already in too deep, the kind of deep from which there was no return. I know what you mean, Cassandra said quietly, her eyes downcast. Oh, good, good. Evelyn breathed a sigh of relief. But before she could fully relax, she heard Cassandra's voice, firm and resolute as an oath. If he truly chooses Sylvia Shaw, it only proves that he is a man of loyalty and principle. I, Cassandra Thorne, admire a man like that. I will give him everything he needs to achieve his goals. I trust that he has a plan. This was still her mistress? Were these words that her mistress could actually say? Evelyn's eyes widened in disbelief. Miss, aren't you afraid that Sylvia Shaw will use some trick to make Mr. Lynn fall for her? She whispered the last 3 words, but in the quiet room, they were perfectly clear. Someone drowning in the pond might not realize it, but as a bystander, she could see everything with perfect clarity. How had Liam's view of her mistress changed? Wasn't it through their daily interactions, their mutual understanding, their shared experiences? It was the classic story of familiarity breeding affection. If Liam could fall for her mistress over time, what about Sylvia Shaw? If Sylvia kept using the poison to threaten him, he would have to keep compromising. During that prolonged daily contact, couldn't Liam also develop feelings for Sylvia? That was the unspoken fear behind her words. Evelyn watched her mistress carefully, feeling completely helpless. It was as if her formidable boss had been cornered by a checkmate she couldn't escape. How could Cassandra not understand what she was implying? She had seen the changes in Liam with her own eyes. Just a moment ago, when he had given her that genuine smile, even though it came under duress, her heart had melted. A small smile touched Cassandra's lips as she gazed out the window. If that's really what happens, she murmured, then even if he decides to drift between the two of us, I'll accept it. Evelyn felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. She stared at her mistress, utterly shocked. In that moment, all of Cassandra's pride had crumbled, leaving only a loving, heartbreaking compromise. Evelyn could even see a trace of sorrow in her smiling face. Sorrow. Evelyn's lips trembled, but the words of comfort she wanted to say remained stuck in her throat. All she could do now was pray. 1 minute at a time, the hour ticked away. Soon, a knock came from outside. Mr. Lynn, time is up. Like a prisoner being summoned, Liam got off the bed and opened the door. He caught a glimpse of Evelyn's door, slightly ajar down the hall. His expression hardened as he followed the bodyguard to Sylvia's suite. Have you made up your mind? Sylvia asked as he entered. She was sitting at a table, pouring tea with a gentle expression. Yes, Liam said. He glanced at the still open door behind him, and a sudden smile spread across his face. I'll go with you. Hearing this, Sylvia immediately put down the teapot, her eyes lighting up with excitement. Really? You decided? Yes. Liam nodded firmly. Then his tone shifted, a playful smile on his lips. However, I have a few demands. Sylvia raised an eyebrow, wary that he might be trying to pull another trick. Let's hear them. Liam's smile was open and confident. First, I want a massive motorcade to escort us on the way back. Second, my accommodations can't be shabby. It has to be a villa, at least, on the beach. I like an ocean view. Third, I want a full marching band, drums and all. I like a big celebration. Fourth, I want $1 million in cash. And fifth, I want your family's elders to greet me at the main gate and hold a welcome banquet in my honor. To an ordinary person, these demands would be pure fantasy. But to Sylvia, they were all things that money could buy. And just like Cassandra, money was the one thing Sylvia had in abundance. Her eyes widened slightly, a look of disbelief on her beautiful face. Is that all? That's all. Liam nodded, a faint, unreadable smile playing on his lips. I've already agreed to go back with you. You have to show me some sincerity, right? Otherwise, how will our relationship ever improve? What she wanted, more than anything, was for their relationship to improve. As expected, Sylvia agreed without a moment's hesitation. No problem. I agree to all of it. She clapped her hands, and several more bodyguards emerged from side room. Liam's eyes narrowed. Of course, he knew these heiresses wouldn't travel with only 2 bodyguards. Sylvia's expression turned cold as she gave her orders. You heard my fiancé's demands, didn't you? Yes, ma'am. The bodyguards replied in unison. Go prepare everything now. You have 2 hours. Yes, ma'am. After the bodyguards left, Sylvia's face softened. She gestured to the sofa. Liam, come sit. Liam didn't refuse. He walked over and sat on the sofa opposite her, meeting her gaze. The earlier tension in the room had vanished, replaced by a gentle calm. Sylvia smiled, took a small bottle from a drawer, and stood up, sitting down right next to him. Wary of her threat to erase his memory, Liam cautiously shifted away. Ms. Shaw, what is that? Still calling me Ms. Shaw, Sylvia said, a hint of displeasure in her voice as she twisted the cap off the bottle. Liam swallowed, frowned, and forced out 2 words. Sylvia. It was as if those 2 words had unlocked something inside her. Her face lit up with excitement. She held the bottle closer to him. That's better. A fiancé shouldn't call his fiancée by such a formal name. She was clearly deep in her role-playing. Liam's jaw tightened. He kept his eyes on the bottle. So what is it? Sylvia's lips curved into a sweet smile. It's a balm for circulation and bruising. Her eyes drifted to the red marks on his neck, a flash of malice in their depths, before she continued smiling. Let me help you rub some of this on. The marks will be gone in no time. Liam secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't resist, allowing Sylvia to apply the balm. As if cleaning a smudge off a beloved toy, Sylvia's touch alternated between forceful and gentle, hovering between rage and calm. She rubbed until his entire neck was flushed bright red before she finally stopped. Liam picked up a small mirror from the table and glanced at his reflection, then quipped, Is this really what your family's medicine does? Don't be impatient. It'll be better in a little while, Sylvia replied with a smile, her eyes filled with a possessive gleam. Once these disappear, I'll help you make some new ones. That's... Liam was about to say no, but seeing the sudden darkness in her eyes, he caught himself and changed the subject. Let's wait until after I've met your parents. We have plenty of time, don't we? His tactic of feigned retreat was always effective, especially on people who had feelings for him. Sylvia was no exception. Her eyes instantly lit up. She excitedly linked her arm with his, her face beaming with happiness. You're right. We have plenty of time. We have so much time to do so many things. Lewis was having a terrible day. As a regional manager for Shaw Pharma, he was usually a hot commodity, welcomed wherever he went. But today, he was treated like a pariah. Every company he went to for negotiations shut him down. Even the ones who had confirmed appointments yesterday suddenly had their doors closed when he arrived. If he didn't close a single deal, his whole day was a waste. Lewis ran around to 4 or 5 different mainland companies, but the answer was always the same. Something came up, or they were no longer interested in a partnership. By the end of the day, he had burned through a tank of gas with nothing to show for it. Lewis was starting to panic, but he didn't dare call his superiors, terrified of being fired for incompetence. It wasn't just Lewis. Almost all of Shaw Pharma's mainland divisions received non-renewal notices at the same time. Deals that had been set in stone were suddenly canceled with flimsy excuses. Within half a day, it was as if every company on the mainland had conspired against them. The news quickly started trending online. Hashtag Shaw Pharma getting squeezed. Of course, since it wasn't a mainland company, the news garnered little public interest. Even with 30 million views, the comment section was a ghost town. At the same time, another trending topic involving the Shaw family was pinned to the top of every feed. Hashtag Vegas welcomes the groom. Countless travel bloggers in Las Vegas, eager for clicks, started live streaming. The scene was broadcast for all to see. A motorcade of over 20 luxury cars, all adorned with massive red ribbons, crawling down the Las Vegas Strip, led by a full-scale marching band. The spectacular display naturally drew a massive crowd. This is like something out of an old movie, with a big parade to welcome the groom. Seriously though, this is a bit too modern. They used horse-drawn carriages. These guys are using Porsches. LOL. Whose family is this? What's with the huge spectacle? With no one trying to suppress it, the topic became the hottest story of the day, with netizens wildly speculating about who was behind such a grand display. However, when the camera zoomed in on the second car in the motorcade and the rear window rolled down, everyone froze. Wait a minute, is that Factory Guy? Factory Guy is back? Holy yes, that's our Factory Guy for you. Never a dull moment. Last time, it was the billionaire heiress hunting him down. Did she finally get him? Looks like it. Look at that procession, over 20 cars, and they're all Porsches. What kind of life does this guy have? I'm so jealous. Oh. The chat exploded. This scene, of course, was also seen by Cassandra, back in her hotel room. Evelyn stood beside her, barely daring to breathe. Mr. Thorne has already begun coordinating with mainland companies to apply pressure on the Shaw family. Cassandra said nothing, her eyes fixed on the live stream on her phone, her expression unreadable. Evelyn hesitated for a moment before speaking. Mr. Lynn, he. Before she could finish, Cassandra cut her off, her voice laced with biting sarcasm. This is quite the spectacle, isn't it? You mean a motorcade? Evelyn realized, forcing a chuckle. It's nothing, really. A bit tacky, if you ask me. If you wanted to do something like this, miss, I could arrange something far more magnificent. Her words struck a chord with Cassandra. She looked up slightly. You think it's tacky, too? Of course. Evelyn instantly understood what her mistress wanted to hear and quickly added, anyone with money can put on a show like this, making such a public display of it. What is that if not tacky? A rare smile finally appeared on Cassandra's face. She narrowed her eyes and delivered her verdict with a sneer. Utterly classless. Meanwhile, in the second car, Liam pulled out a flower basket filled with stacks of cash from the floor. He smiled and picked up a thick bundle. Liam, what are you doing? Asked Sylvia, who was sitting beside him in a lavish gown, looking at him with curiosity. On such a wonderful day, shouldn't we let everyone share in our good fortune? Liam grinned, rolled down his window, and without a moment's hesitation, started flinging the money into the crowd. He's throwing money, someone in the crowd screamed. In an instant, a mob of people broke through the security cordon, scrambling to pick up the bills. $1 million, all in crisp, brand-new bills, just being thrown out for free. Who wouldn't be tempted? Seeing the crowd swarm like a disturbed hornet's nest, Sylvia grabbed Liam's arm, her face a mixture of nervousness and suspicion. Liam, you're not trying to escape, are you? Didn't you say the villa is all ready for me? Why would I run? Liam replied with a smile, his hands never stopping as he continued to toss bundle after bundle of cash out the window. Then what are you doing? Sylvia didn't understand. $1 million was pocket change to her family, but the act of just throwing it away was something she couldn't comprehend. Aren't we letting everyone share in our happiness? Liam said as he scattered more money. Back home, we have a tradition. When a new couple has a procession, they scatter gifts to share their joy. I'm just recreating it. Sylvia didn't know much about his old life, but she had heard of such traditions. It was just a way of showing off. If Liam was saying this, it meant that in his heart, he considered them being together a joyous occasion. It was only $1 million. Seeing Liam smiling so happily, how could it not be worth it? Sylvia understood. She signaled for the driver to open her window and joined in, tossing money to the crowds. There was so much money. Stacks of new bills piled up around the car. The frenzied crowd completely surrounded the motorcade, bringing it to a standstill. At first, people were picking up the money in an orderly fashion. But as the cars remained stuck and Liam and Sylvia kept throwing more cash, it all piled up in one spot. Soon, it devolved into a chaotic grab fest. Sylvia, frightened, quickly rolled her window back up. But Liam remained calm, watching his hands reached in to snatch the money. A perfectly organized motorcade had managed to completely block the main thoroughfare. Everyone in Las Vegas needing to get through that day was stuck in traffic for nearly 3 hours. A torrent of angry complaints propelled the story to the top of the local news. And on the mainland, the topic also trended, refusing to budge. Hashtag cash grab incident on Vegas Strip. As usual, good news struggled to gain traction, while bad news was pinned to the top. The topic quickly surpassed 100 million views. Netizens were split into two camps. People there have no class. Class depends on the person. Look what they're throwing. That's cold, hard cash. That much money, for free? You're telling me you wouldn't grab it? I wouldn't be that classless. They're blocking the whole road. What's class? If I were there, I'd be grabbing it too. Factory guy is really living the high life now. Marrying into a rich family gives you a lot of nerve just throwing money around. Wait. Who did you say is marrying who? Forget factory guy. If I could marry into a rich family, I'd buy everyone on this thread a boba tea. With an attitude like that, you'll never marry into a rich family. The scene wasn't just chaotic in person. It was going viral online. In her hotel room, Cassandra frowned as she watched. Evelyn, what do you think he's doing? Evelyn, also watching the live stream, was equally baffled. I don't know. That road is completely blocked now. Do you think Mr. Lynn is trying to stall for time? Cassandra narrowed her eyes. What was the point of stalling now? She had a feeling this was something more. It felt like Liam was building momentum for something. Events unfolded just as Liam had anticipated. At the Landon estate, 5 days had passed. Lawrence Landon, who was already preparing to have Chloe's and Leo's families abducted, listened to a report from Jason, his head of security. Sir, I've contacted our people in Las Vegas. They confirm that the people in the car are indeed Mr. Liam and Ms. Shaw. He really went to Vegas? Lawrence took the phone from Jason, a look of surprise on his face as he watched the chaotic live stream. After a moment of shock, a mocking smile spread across his lips. Putting on such a big show, they seem to be having a lot of fun. Jason bowed his head, saying nothing. After a moment, Lawrence looked up. What's the word from the Thorne family? We've received news that they are coordinating an attack on Shaw Pharma's mainland interests, Jason reported. Sir, should we intervene? With the Thorne family leading the charge, it will be very difficult for the Shaws to gain a foothold on the mainland. Why would I help them? Lawrence shot back instantly. The question caught Jason off guard. Lawrence sneered. Let them fight. It will knock the Shaws down a peg. Otherwise, they might forget who's really in charge. Understood, sir, Jason nodded. Glancing at the still chaotic scene on the phone screen, Lawrence put down. How is Hayden's IVF treatment progressing? We have screened several willing surrogates. The second young master is a bit weak, so he is still taking supplements to build up his strength, Jason answered truthfully. Good. Get it done as soon as possible. I don't have the patience to wait 10 months for a pregnancy, Lawrence said emphatically. His gaze drifted back to Liam's smiling face on the phone screen. Let him have his fun for a couple of days. Everything else proceeds as planned. Ensure that he is notified that Chloe's and Leo's families have been taken. Jason frowned slightly. Sir, since Ms. Shaw has already found him, and their union would be beneficial to our business, why are we still? Lawrence cut him off before he could finish. Jason, I don't like to repeat myself. Do as I say. Knowing Lawrence's ruthless nature, Jason didn't dare say another word. He bowed his head. Yes, sir. After Jason left, a cold, cruel smile formed on Lawrence's lips. Happiness? That was a word that didn't exist in his world. As long as he was alive, Liam would never know true happiness. He wanted to personally witness the look of helpless, soul-crushing despair in Liam's eyes when he fell from the clouds of his fleeting joy. Next time you have a plan like this, maybe let me know in advance. After being stuck in traffic for over 2 hours, Sylvia was miserable. With Liam's window open the entire time, hot air had been blasting into the car. She was drenched in sweat. Her exquisite makeup was smudged, and the damp tendrils of hair at her temples were stuck to her face like greasy noodles. It was incredibly uncomfortable. Seeing that her good mood had been completely ruined, Liam didn't argue. He just nodded obediently. Okay, I know. From now on, I'll tell you before I do anything. Normally, Sylvia would have been delighted by Liam's compliance, but right now she was hot and irritable. She just grunted a soft and fell silent. Thanks to the oppressive heat, the rest of the drive to the Shaw family estate on Solara Island was quiet. Sylvia's mood only began to improve when they arrived. But her ruined makeup and greasy hair were still a source of acute embarrassment. We're going to my place first. I need to fix my makeup, she ordered, her tone still sour. Liam, of course, had no objections. He seized the opportunity. In that case, can I walk around downstairs for a bit? No. Sylvia shot him down instantly, without a second thought. A look of disappointment crossed Liam's face. He lowered his head, his voice filled with sincere apology. I am sorry, Sylvia. That was reckless of me. I shouldn't have acted on my own and made you suffer in this heat. Seeing his crestfallen expression and hearing his humble tone, Sylvia's heart softened. What was she doing? She was snapping at the treasure she had worked so hard to win back. A wave of guilt washed over her. It's not your fault, she said quickly. I just lost control of my temper. So this works on her, too? With his head still lowered, a flash of understanding crossed Liam's eyes. He knew how to handle her now. He kept his head down, a hint of a sob in his voice, as he added pitifully, No, you were right to be angry. I won't do it again. Sylvia had never seen this soft side of Liam before. It reminded her of when they were children, when he would pull on her sleeve and whine for her attention. She felt a surge of panic. Don't be like that, Liam. It was my fault. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. That word, sister, used in such an intimate way, made Liam's skin crawl. He had a serious complex about that word, but Sylvia was oblivious. She ordered the driver to stop, looked around at the familiar architecture, and said anxiously, Okay, Liam, I'll let you walk around for a bit. But you can't wander off. I'll have someone stay with you, okay? Liam sniffled and nodded vigorously. A smile bloomed on Sylvia's face. She happily used her fingers to push up the corners of Liam's mouth, forcing a stiff, awkward smile onto his face. To her, it was the most beautiful sight in the world. That's it. Just like that. Liam, you should smile more. I love to see you smile. Fighting the urge to shudder, Liam obediently nodded. The scene made Sylvia incredibly happy. As the bodyguard opened the car door, she got out, not forgetting to give him a gentle reminder. You absolutely cannot wander off, okay? If you need anything, just have Archie pay for it. With that, she stepped out of the car. The gentle expression on her face vanished. She looked at her bodyguard, a man named Archie, and her voice turned to ice. Watch Mr. Lin. If anything happens, I will hold you personally responsible. Mr. Lin is staying on the coast of Solara Island. We've secured the villa next door. Miss, when do we depart? Back in the hotel, Evelyn reported to Cassandra. Putting down her teacup, Cassandra narrowed her eyes. Immediately. Sir, where would you like to go? On the street, Archie asked Liam. Liam scanned the bustling street. The architecture, with its touch of old-world charm, felt like stepping back in time. This was Solara Island. After all, much of its original style, with its traditional, rustic character, had been preserved. Let's just walk around, he said, not revealing his true destination. His eyes locked onto a small food stall on the corner, and he headed straight for it. Archie watched in bewilderment as Liam bought 2 churros from the stall and even handed one to him. Not bad, Liam said, taking a bite and nodding in approval. Archie took a bite, feeling completely nonplussed. So you went through all that trouble to get out of the car, just to buy a cho. Hey, can I get 2 more? Liam called out to the vendor. Fearing something might go wrong, Sylvia had only changed into a new dress and quickly touched up her makeup before rushing back down. When she arrived, she saw Liam and Archie standing by the street stall, munching away. Here, got this for you, Liam said, holding up a paper bag as Sylvia approached. Archie's lip twitched. His boss spent a fortune on him, and he gets her a chuo. What a cheapskate. He might have been scornful, but Sylvia's face lit up with joy as she took the bag. Liam, you remembered I love churros. Hearing this, Liam froze. Crap, he was just trying to scope out the area and grab a snack. He never thought he'd accidentally hit the mark again. He gave a slightly awkward laugh. Eat up, they're still warm. Okay. Sylvia smiled and nodded, linking her arm with his. They got back in the car. To welcome Liam, the Shaw family had booked out the famous Imperial Dragon on Solara Island. The magnificent banquet hall on the top floor wasn't a place you could reserve with just money. Today, the entire venue was closed to the public, exclusively for their use. Their car pulled up to the entrance. A bright red carpet stretched from the main door all the way to the street, flanked by lavish floral arrangements. A bodyguard was stationed every 10 feet, a clear testament to how seriously the Shaw family was taking Liam's arrival. As he stepped out of the car with Sylvia and walked onto the red carpet, Liam felt a strange sense of déjà vu, like he was back at the Landon estate. Cassandra had never been this gaudy. She was either extremely high-profile or completely silent. Compared to the Thorns, the Landons, and the Shaws, while certainly rich, had a certain new money feel to them. When they got off the elevator, a well-dressed, middle-aged couple stood waiting. Sylvia smiled at Liam. Liam, do you remember them? He did, but it was a deep, buried memory. For a moment, he felt a flicker of familiarity, but he couldn't recall their names. He remained silent, knowing they were Sylvia's parents. When Shaw stepped forward, her eyes glistening. Look how much you've grown. Beside her, Sylvia's father, Simon Shaw, beamed with pride. Kids, they grow up so fast. Liam hesitated for a moment before speaking. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Shaw. The greeting made Sylvia's heart soar. Wendy and Simon were equally pleased. Liam glanced around the banquet hall. The decorations were grand, but there were very few guests, mostly just servants. Sylvia took Liam's arm and said to her parents, "Mom, Dad, let's go inside to talk." Liam just got back. He's still adjusting. Yes, let's talk inside," Simon nodded. In the banquet hall, Liam spotted a boy of about 18 or 19 slumped on the sofa, engrossed in his phone. He didn't even look up when they came in. Liam had never seen him before. Simon's voice boomed. "P9.She, your brother-in-law is here, and you're still playing that stupid game? Put that phone away right now." Stephen didn't even raise his head, just clicked his tongue with a soft TSK. Simon's face flushed with anger, but when he pulled him back, he just started his break. Let him play for a while. "You spoil him too much," Simon grumbled. The whole scene was treated as if Liam was already family. Sylvia leaned in and whispered to Liam, "That's my little brother. He was born the year you left. Don't mind him. Weren't all kids at age like this?" Liam didn't think much of it. What was important was the boy himself. He had been wondering how he could find a reliable person to buy things for him without the Shaws knowing. Now, that problem seemed to have solved itself. Liam smiled and sat down across from Sylvia's parents. The moment they were seated, Simon got straight to the point. "Liam, your mother and I have heard all about what happened with you and Sylvia. You're young. It's normal to be a little reckless. Sylvia was probably pushing you too hard. But what matters is that you two found your way back to each other. This is a happy occasion." "Exactly," Winnie chimed in, smiling warmly at Liam. "Young people need a little excitement. No matter what, your Uncle Simon and I will always support you." There was no blame, just a gentle push towards marriage, almost the same conversation he'd had with Cassandra's parents. The atmosphere was peaceful, but from the sofa, the brother, Stephen, chimed in with a sour note. "My sister is so capable. She had to put out a nationwide APB to chase down her fiancé. Made a huge scene, a girl making that much noise." The Shaw family lost all face. His outburst hung in the air, making the room uncomfortably silent. Sylvia's smiling face instantly clouded over, but when he just laughed it off, "Stephen, what are you talking about? Your sister did it for love. I think it's incredibly romantic. The whole world knows their story now, so everyone can wish them well." "That's right, Stephen. You're still young. When you're older, your mother and I will support you if you do the same thing," Simon added with a laugh, then looked at Liam apologetically. "Liam, don't mind him. His mother spoils him rotten. He speaks without thinking." Liam shook his head to show it was nothing, his calm gaze landing on Sylvia. Because in that room, only he and Sylvia knew the truth. That grand, viral hunt for the groom that had stunned the nation wasn't Sylvia's at all. It had been Cassandra's profound, public confession of love for him. If anyone else had brought it up, Sylvia would have simply laughed it off with a graceful explanation. But this was coming from her parents, her family. In an instant, her expression became terrifyingly grim. It felt as if they had strapped her to a pyre. To deny it was impossible, but to admit it, Liam, for his part, was rather curious to see how Sylvia would handle this. He felt her hand tighten around his. The next second, he heard her say, "That's all in the past. Mom, Dad, let's not talk about it anymore." Her answer was a tacit admission. She was taking credit for the Vegas spectacle. Liam frowned slightly. He hadn't expected that. Cassandra would never have just let it slide. Her personality was far too audacious. She would have denied it with cutting force, probably threatening him through gritted teeth. Strange. Why was it that ever since leaving Cassandra, he found himself thinking of her so often? Every move Sylvia made, his mind would involuntarily conjure an image of how Cassandra would have handled the same situation. It seemed he really had fallen for that madwoman. Liam subconsciously pressed a hand to his chest, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. Seeing their daughter's displeasure, and then Liam's look of profound affection, Simon and Wendy Shaw exchanged a knowing glance. It was obvious. Sylvia had been wrong before, and now she was just playing coy. All right. Your mother and I won't bring it up again," Simon said, his enthusiasm returning. "But the engagement ceremony is done. We should lock down a date for the wedding." He was practically glowing, already picturing his daughter and son-in-law exchanging vows at the altar. Yes, when he chimed in, nodding eagerly. "I've already spoken with a few of the wives. There's a perfect opening at the club in 2 days. They can all be there." So, the grand ceremony was on. Liam's escape window had just been forcibly shortened to 48 hours. He didn't deny it. He didn't refuse. And just like that, amidst this scene of perfect harmony, the matter was settled. News of the Shaw heiress's wedding spread like wildfire through Solara Island's business circles, and the socialites began preparing for the celebration. Meanwhile, Liam, a guest in the opulent Shaw family home, was already plotting his next escape. Sylvia, who had intended to spend the next 2 days with him, received an urgent call from her company and had to leave. She didn't say what it was, but Liam had a strong suspicion. The Thorne family was making a move behind the scenes. This worked perfectly for him. He changed into a simple set of clothes and went downstairs, where he found Stephen Shaw slouched on the living room couch, furiously tapping at a video game on his phone. Liam approached slowly, sitting down next to him and calmly pouring himself a glass of iced tea. Stephen's head snapped up, his brow furrowed as he eyed Liam with suspicion. "What do you want?" His tone was hostile, as if looking at an enemy. Which in a way he was. If Liam married Sylvia, Stephen's inheritance would be significantly diluted. Liam decided to cut to the chase. "What? Not happy to see me? Happy to see you? Get real. I'm not a lovesick idiot like my sister," Stephen shot back, his eyes filled with resentment. "I know why you don't like me." Liam remained unruffled. "You're afraid I'm going to take your money." The bluntness of the statement silenced Stephen. He just stared, momentarily speechless. Seeing his reaction, Liam knew he'd hit the mark. He glanced at Stephen coolly. "I'm right, aren't I, kiddo?" That single word, kiddo, was like a lit match on gasoline. Stephen tossed his phone aside, glaring at Liam, looking like he was about to pounce. Across from him, Liam just smiled. "But according to the news I just heard, it seems Shaw Pharma is in a bit of a tight spot." "How did you know that?" Stephen's anger gave way to surprise. He'd only found out today himself. His father had promised him a new car, but then, just this afternoon, told him the family needed the cash for an emergency and the car would have to wait. He had assumed it was because of Liam and his sister, which fueled his animosity. But now, maybe not. Liam grinned. "Of course I know. The family is facing a cash flow problem. You're probably going to take a big hit this time. There won't be much left for you in the end." Stephen's eyes widened. He didn't know the details of the family business, but what Liam was saying mirrored his own experience today perfectly. His anger flared again. "This is all your fault. Nothing good has happened since you showed up. You're a damn jinx." Liam didn't get angry at the insult. Instead, his smile broadened. He glanced at the servants milling about in the background before leaning in close to Stephen, his voice a low, provocative whisper. "So what are you going to do about it? You got the guts to kick me out." "You." Stephen was young and full of pride. How could he stand such a taunt? Especially with that smug, triumphant look on Liam's face. A terrible thought dawned on him. Was it possible? Had Liam orchestrated all of this, marrying his sister just to drain their family's assets? No, he couldn't let that happen. Enraged, Stephen grabbed Liam by the collar. "What the hell did you just say to me? Say it again." Liam remained calm, looking him straight in the eye, a mocking smile on his lips. He spoke in a voice only they could hear. "And what if I do? I'm the man your sister loves. Once I've bled your family dry, what are you going to fight me with?" That smug expression was the final straw. Stephen's face turned crimson with rage. "You shameless bastard. You gold-digging piece of trash," he roared, raising a fist to punch Liam. But before the blow could land, a black-suited bodyguard shot out from a nearby room, catching Stephen's wrist mid-swing. "Mr. Shaw, my orders for Miss Shaw are to protect Mr. Lynn. Please do not resort to violence." The bodyguard held Stephen's arm as if he were a misbehaving toddler, lifting him slightly. Seeing Stephen's fury peak, Liam took a leisurely sip of his tea. "Careful, kid. So much anger isn't good for you. You need to cool down. Let go of me. I'm going to tell my dad right now. You'll never set foot in this house again." Stephen yelled, struggling fiercely. Liam looked at him with disdain. "Is that all you can do when you get picked on? Cry to daddy? You haven't even hit puberty. My sister is the only reason you're protected, you scheming snake. What are you without her? Nothing but a pretty boy who acts like a victim." Liam let out a soft chuckle, looking at Stephen's contorted, furious face. He smiled pleasantly. "How about this? We go for a swim at the beach. A race. If you lose, I apologize. If you win, well, then I guess I'll just have to keep up the act. You're on. Like I'm afraid of you." Stephen accepted the challenge without a moment's hesitation. It worked. Different ages required different tactics, and for a hothead like Stephen, provocation was the key. Liam narrowed his eyes. The first part of his objective was complete. No need to waste any more effort. "Let's go then," he said simply. Stephen blinked. "Right now." "Why not?" Liam arched an eyebrow, adding more fuel to the fire. "I'm marrying your sister in 2 days. Isn't it better to get this sort of thing out of the way sooner rather than later?" "Fine." Stephen violently shook off the bodyguard's hand and shouted toward the door. "Ford, get the car ready. I'm taking him out for a little fun." Outside, an older man with white hair, dressed in an impeccable suit, paused, a troubled look on his face. Young master, Miss Shaw's instructions were very clear. Mr. Lin is to remain in the villa and not go anywhere. Stephen's face fell instantly. On any other day, it wouldn't have mattered, but with Liam standing right there, being publicly overruled by a servant was a slap in the face. What's that, Ford? Stephen snapped, putting on an air of authority. Is my sister the only one who gives orders in this house now? Of course not, sir, the old man replied, shaking his head. Then get the car. My future brother-in-law and I are going out to have some fun. Bond a little. You could practically hear Stephen's teeth grinding on the words brother-in-law. Seeing this, Ford knew he couldn't argue further. He simply nodded and went to prepare the vehicle. Swim trunks and other gear were readily available. This was Solar Island. After all, there was never a shortage of marine equipment. Stephen sat in the front passenger seat while Liam took the back. Neither of them spoke. The car was filled with a tense, peaceful silence. Liam turned his head slightly, his gaze fixed on the scenery outside. As they neared the coast, his eyes narrowed. On Solar Island, you didn't just swim anywhere. The waters varied in depth, and to avoid dangerous drop-offs, the areas were clearly marked. The place they were headed was a designated shallow zone, perfect for water sports. True to his status as the young master of the Shaw family, Stephen had the entire area cleared the moment they arrived. Their race would take place on a beach devoid of a single tourist. This suited Liam's plan perfectly. After changing into their swim trunks, they stood at the water's edge. The race was a 1,000-meter sprint to a buoy and back. The first to touch the starting line again would win. At the sound of the starting signal, Stephen executed a perfect racing dive and shot through the water toward the turning point. Liam dived in as well, but he swam in the exact opposite direction. The move stunned the few bodyguards on the beach. They shouted for a while, but with both men wearing swim caps and the sound of crashing waves, their calls were lost. More importantly, Stephen hadn't brought many men with him, and none of them had swimsuits. Liam was swimming incredibly fast. It didn't look like he was in distress. Even if they got life-saving equipment now, it would be nearly impossible to catch him. In an instant, the men on the shore descended into panic. Back at the Shaw estate. Ford, what did you just say? Stephen took Liam out. Sylvia, having just rushed back from her business, was met with this news. Her face went pale. Yes, miss. The young master said he wanted to bond with Mr. Lin. I couldn't stop him. Ford said, bowing his head. What a nerve. Who gave him that authority? Sylvia snapped, her expression turning fierce. She rounded on Ford. Where did they go? The men who went with them reported they went to the swimming area at the beach. Get the car. Take me there now. Without a moment's hesitation, Sylvia gave the order. An inexplicable sense of dread washed over her. Based on her time with Liam, she knew he wasn't someone who compromised easily. Although she was holding Chloe and Leo as leverage, she couldn't shake the feeling that his compliance had been too quick, too easy, almost as if it were all part of a plan. She scrambled into the car, staring out at the passing scenery. For the first time, the drive felt impossibly long. Her eyes darkened, her face a mask of stone, but her mind was racing. Liam, you better not be playing games with me. Or else. A murderous glint flashed in her eyes. She turned to the driver and commanded coldly. Faster. Yes, miss. At the beach, Liam counted the time in his head. After about 10 minutes of swimming parallel to the coast, he glanced at the shore. 2 bodyguards were keeping pace with him on the sand, while the others were much farther away. His eyes narrowed. He took a deep breath and plunged under the water, swimming hard for the shore. Mr. Lin, you're going the wrong way. The 2 bodyguards saw Liam emerge from the water and immediately walked over. But they never got a chance to finish their sentence. Liam moved with lightning speed, a single precise kick taking out the first man, followed by a swift strike that knocked the second unconscious. He scanned his surroundings. No one seemed to have noticed. Time was limited. He ducked into a nearby dive shop, borrowed the owner's phone to log into his account, and purchased a full set of diving gear and a portable oxygen tank, all of which was packed into a suitcase. Wearing his swim cap, he was unrecognizable. The shop was busy, and he managed to slip out without drawing any attention. Meanwhile, a frantic Sylvia had arrived at the main beach entrance. She rushed toward the remaining bodyguards. Where are they? The young master and Mr. Lin are both in the water. But Mr. Lin swam the wrong way. He's over there. Hey, what are those 2 idiots doing, taking a nap at a time like this? One of the bodyguard exclaimed, pointing down the beach. As his eyes focused, his tone shifted to outrage. Miss, I'll go wake them up right now. But they weren't sleeping. They were knocked out cold. When Sylvia and her entourage reached the spot where Liam had come ashore, they found the two unconscious bodyguards lying motionless on the sand. And on the water's surface, there was nothing but crashing waves. Not a trace of Liam. In that moment, Sylvia's composure shattered. Useless. A bunch of useless trash. You can't even watch one person, she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the bodyguards. What are you waiting for? Go find him. If Liam is gone, you will all die. Yes, miss. The men scattered, fanning out to search the immediate area. Staring at the empty beach, the anxiety in Sylvia's heart swelled into a tidal wave of panic. Her face was a storm cloud of fury. She couldn't believe it. Liam had actually escaped. He had abandoned Chloe and Leo. He didn't care if they lived or died. Sylvia's hands clenched into fists, her nails digging into her palms. She scanned the horizon, her eyes wild. Just as her rage peaked and she reached for her phone to call for reinforcements, a light, airy voice sounded from behind her. Sylvia! At the sound of her name, the tension coiling in Sylvia's body snapped. She spun around to see Liam, dragging a suitcase with one hand and holding a small collection of objects in the other, walking toward her with a gentle smile. Sylvia rushed forward, her face still a mask of fury. Where did you go? Liam gave a sheepish grin and opened his palm, revealing a handful of shimmering, iridescent seashells. It was all so sudden, I didn't have time to get you a gift. And since you wouldn't let me leave the house, I thought I'd collect some shells for you. He let go of the suitcase and scratched the back of his head, looking endearingly foolish. The colorful light glinting off the shells seemed to melt Sylvia's heart on the spot. She stared at him, stunned, a note of surprise creeping in her voice. So, you were just picking up shells for me? Yeah, Liam said with a smile, picking one out and holding it up for her to see. This one isn't the prettiest, but I found some nice stones, too. I was thinking I could polish the stones, string them all together, and make you a necklace. He gestured toward the suitcase beside him. Then why did you knock out my bodyguards? I wanted it to be a surprise. I didn't want them to know. I had no idea you'd get here so fast. I wasn't thinking straight. This wasn't just a surprise. He was laying out the entire plan for her. Combined with his apologetic expression, the mountain of rage she had felt just moments ago completely vanished. Liam even bent down and began fiddling with the combination lock on the suitcase. We could pick them out together. Some of them might be weirdly shaped. His movements were excruciatingly slow. But Sylvia, lost in the sweetness of the moment, didn't notice. She stared at him, a wave of realization washing over her. She had completely misjudged him. Liam had always been a man of deep loyalty. How could she have been so foolish as to think he would abandon his friends and his own sister? She quickly reached out and stopped his hand. No, she said, her voice softening. Don't let me see. You pick. I'll love whatever you choose. It's the thought that counts. A flicker of something passed through Liam's eyes. He released his hand from the lock. All right, then. I only got 2 days. I'd better get to work. Okay. Sylvia nodded emphatically, her face radiant with happiness. A smile unconsciously spread across Liam's face as he watched her, growing wider. He hadn't expected it to be so easy. Even if Sylvia hadn't stopped him, he could have come up with an excuse. But this was better. The plan was a success. On the other side of the bay, Stephen finally reached the finish line. He burst out of the water, looked around, and saw no sign of Liam. A triumphant grin split his face. Ha ha ha, I win. Liam, you piece of trash, you thought you could take me on? But his victory speech died in his throat. The shore, where his adoring fans should have been celebrating, was completely empty. Baffled, he waded ashore, only to see Sylvia and Liam walking toward him, arm in arm. They were both beaming with happiness, a stark contrast to his own exhausted state. A fresh wave of fury surged through him. He pointed at Liam, about to let loose a torrent of curses, but then he saw his sister's dark expression and immediately switched to a foolish grin. Hit. Sis, you're here. Sylvia's smile vanished. She glared at her brother. Stop causing trouble. If you're not playing your video games, you're looking for problems. I was playing my game, but then. Stephen started to shift the blame to Liam, but stopped when he saw his sister's face grow even darker, while Liam just stood there smiling. In that moment, Stephen finally understood the true meaning of riding someone's coattails. He shot Liam a venomous look and gritted his teeth. Yes, sister, you're right to scold me. The whiplash-inducing change in his demeanor almost made Liam laugh out loud. He squeezed Sylvia's hand gently. Sylvia, don't blame Stephen. If he hadn't brought me out here, I wouldn't have been able to get you a present. Stephen, thank you. Thank you, my ass. Liam had essentially just jumped on his head and slapped him in the face, but with Sylvia there, Stephen didn't dare utter a single curse. Beside him, all of Sylvia's anger had dissipated. Hearing Liam call her Sylvia over and over was music to her ears. "You're right," she said, smiling. "All right, let's go back. Liam, there's something else I need to tell you." "Okay," Liam replied, then waved cheerfully at Stephen. "Stephen, let's hang out again soon." Stephen's face turned beet red, but he couldn't manage a single word. As he watched them walk away, he ripped off his swim cap and snarled at a bodyguard. "Let's go. We're going back." "Yes, sir." Back in the car with Sylvia, Liam noticed her looking at him, hesitating to speak. "What is it?" he asked. Sylvia bit her lip, then finally spoke. "Liam, there's something I have to tell you." "Go on." "It's about Chloe's and Leo's families, and your biological mother." Her words came out in fits and starts full of reluctance. But even without her saying it, Liam had already guessed. "The Landon family has them, don't they?" Sylvia looked shocked. "How did you know? Do you even have to ask? Your methods are already this vicious. The only ones left who could be used to threaten me are them." Seeing Liam's silence, Sylvia grew anxious. "Liam, don't worry. I'll talk to Mr. Landon. I'll make him understand. He's not an unreasonable man." Liam gave her a cool look. He had already seen what kind of man Lawrence Landon was. He only trusted what he had seen with his own eyes. "Mr. Landon said he's coming here tomorrow by yacht," Sylvia explained, clutching Liam's hand tightly. "We'll go meet him together. As long as we explain everything clearly, it should be fine." To Liam, who already had a plan in motion, her words were meaningless. Still, he nodded. "Okay, is the villa you prepared for me ready?" "It's been ready for a while," Sylvia said with a smile, though her expression was now tinged with difficulty. "But you'll have to stay there by yourself tonight. I have an urgent matter to deal with at the office. I might not have much time to spend with you for the next couple of days." Hearing that, Liam's mouth twitched. He suddenly felt like some pampered trophy husband, about to be left rattling around in a gilded cage by his powerful CEO wife. The car pulled up to the villa. Liam set his suitcase down by his feet and waved as Sylvia's car drove away. Once it was out of sight, he entered the house. Sylvia certainly hadn't let her guard down. The villa's main gate was manned by at least 7 or 8 bodyguards, with numerous security cameras dotting the perimeter. Combined with the fact that he didn't even have a phone, escaping from here would be impossible. Liam played the part of the compliant captive, dutifully carrying his suitcase inside. Sylvia didn't reappear. The bodyguards were tight-lipped, revealing nothing beyond what was necessary for his daily needs. But Liam didn't have to guess. The Thorne family was surely applying pressure behind the scenes, yet the Shaws still had the resources to stage this wedding. Their power on this island was formidable. In the blink of an eye, the day before the wedding arrived. Early that morning, Sylvia appeared at the villa. She was dressed to the nines in a snow-white silk gown, its hem adorned with countless sequins that glittered blindingly in the rising sun. "Liam, let's go," she said, a smile gracing her lips as he emerged. She walked straight to him and proactively linked her arm with his. "Mr. Landon and the others have reached international waters. We're going to welcome them. Are we waiting for them on the coast?" Sylvia shook her head, a hint of confusion on her face. "Mr. Landon called and said they won't be disembarking. He wants us to go to his yacht. I've arranged for a tender. We'll meet them on the water." "Oh," Liam said. He gently removed his arm from hers and walked back inside to retrieve the suitcase. Meeting Sylvia's puzzled gaze, he explained, "I prepared some gifts. We should bring them along." "Are there gifts for Mr. Landon in there too?" "You could say that." Liam nodded, his eyes filled with a deep affection as he looked at Sylvia. "I don't want anything to go wrong. It's always better to show up with presents." He looked exactly like a man desperate to please the disapproving parents of the woman he loved. Sylvia didn't overthink it. In fact, she felt he was genuinely thinking about their future together. She smiled and nodded, linking her arm with his again. "You're right. We should bring a gift." "Liam, thank you for being so thoughtful." Liam just smiled silently. "Of course." They boarded the Shaw family's tender and headed out to the open sea. Sylvia and Liam sat side by side, a handsome couple against a beautiful backdrop. The scene looked peaceful, but it was anything but. One was admiring the view with the love of her life. The other was plotting his escape. It was another perfect day. The sea was calm. The farther they got from shore, the fewer boats they saw. "We haven't had a chance to just go out like this in a long time." Sylvia sighed, gazing at the azure sea, her happiness palpable. Liam didn't speak. His eyes scanned the sky, where countless seagulls soared against the blue and white canvas. A flicker of longing appeared in his eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. Into this beautiful atmosphere, he dropped a cold question. Have Chloe and Leo been cured of the poison? The question instantly shattered Sylvia's sense of security. She tensed, her gaze fixed on Liam, her expression darkening. "Liam, what do you mean by that?" Liam, long accustomed to her mood swings, didn't even turn to look at her. Nothing, he said flatly. They're my friends. I'd like them to be at my wedding tomorrow. Sylvia visibly relaxed, hugging his arm tighter. It's good that you're thinking that way, she said with a cold smile. Don't worry, the poison has been neutralized. They just need another day of rest. Good, Liam nodded, saying nothing more. Before long, a large yacht appeared on the horizon. Sylvia pointed. That's Mr. Landon's ship. Liam followed her finger. The yacht and the tender drew closer, finally meeting in the open sea. The Landon crew, already alerted to their arrival, had opened a tender bay at the yacht's waterline. After steering the small boat into the bay, Liam, carrying his suitcase, walked hand in hand with Sylvia up to the main deck, led by a servant. On deck, Lawrence Landon was waiting in a wheelchair. Beside him, his security chief, Jason, stood silently, his hands on the chair's handles. The moment she saw him, a huge smile spread across Sylvia's face. Mr. Landon, it's been too long. She held onto Liam's arm tightly, as if showing off a trophy, a hint of pride in her eyes. But to her surprise, Lawrence said nothing. He just stared at Liam with a blank expression. Liam narrowed his eyes, feigning surprise. This is my first time on a Landon family yacht. It's huge. As he spoke, he subtly pulled his hand free from Sylvia's and began to slowly drift toward the edge of the deck. We have one too, but today is about meeting Mr. Landon. I'll take you on ours next time, Sylvia said with a smile, following him. For a moment, they looked like two playful children, laughing on the deck. Grandpa doesn't seem to be in a good mood today, Liam remarked casually as he reached the railing, giving it a slight push. Sylvia took the hint and started walking toward Lawrence. Mr. Landon, is something wrong? Just as she was about to reach him, Lawrence's voice boomed across the deck. Jason sees Liam. His voice was stern, filled with an authority that permitted no argument. The command froze Sylvia in her tracks. Mr. Landon, you... Before she could finish, a dozen bodyguards in black suits swarmed out from the main cabin, their eyes fixed menacingly on Liam. Seeing this, Liam suddenly smiled. He glanced at Sylvia. Miss Shaw, he said lightly, you've been played. His voice was filled with a rich, mocking tone, as if days of pent-up frustration were finally being released. Sylvia froze, looking back and forth between them in confusion. Played? What do you mean? Liam smiled pleasantly at her, propping himself up on the railing with both hands. He sat on it, looking directly into Lawrence's dark eyes, and sneered. He doesn't want to see us married. What he wants is the same thing you want. He's always just wanted me. Lawrence's eyes widened. He couldn't believe Liam had seen through him. You are indeed very clever, he remarked, but his expression quickly twisted into a vicious snarl. But what does being clever matter now? Miss Shaw, I must thank you. Thank you for delivering Liam right back into my hands. What? What do you mean? The situation had escalated too quickly for Sylvia to process. Her stunned gaze shifted between the two men. Mr. Landon, Liam, and I even brought you a gift. Didn't you say that if we came, you would? He was just using your affection for me. Liam interrupted with a laugh before she could finish. The atmosphere on the deck crackled with tension. Lawrence looked at Liam with a strange curiosity. When did you figure it out? Did I need to? Liam sneered. After everything he had been through, he'd have to be an idiot not to see it. Lawrence raised an eyebrow, his tone challenging. Then I suppose you've also guessed what I intend to do to you. Unexpectedly, Liam just shook his head silently. Forgive my ignorance, Liam said, a smile blooming on his face. Even if I rack my brain, I couldn't guess what you want to do. He paused, his gaze fixed on Lawrence, and suddenly spread his arms wide, as if to embrace the air. But what you want to do has nothing to do with me. Why would I waste my time guessing the motives of someone who means absolutely nothing to me? His words were casual, his gesture utterly carefree. Leaning back against the vast blue sky and sea, he seemed to become one with them. That smile, so full of freedom, was exceptionally grating. More importantly, what did he just say? His plan, decades in the making, wasn't even worth a moment of Liam's consideration. Lawrence felt as though he had thrown a punch with all his might only to hit cotton. The obsession that had consumed half his life wasn't even registering on Liam's radar. Not even a flicker of fear. Lawrence's face turned completely dark. He ordered Jason, go. Get him. Jason responded immediately, but as he moved forward, Sylvia grabbed his arm. No, Mr. Landon, what are you doing? Aren't you looking forward to my wedding with Liam? Seeing her devolve into hysterics, Lawrence finally exploded. Looking forward to it? He roared, his face contorted with rage. Why would I look forward to his happiness? It was her, Eleanor Landon, who cheated on me first. I have been humiliated for more than 20 years. Why should I let this bastard be happy? His shout was a guttural roar that echoed across the deck. Sylvia stared at Lawrence in disbelief. Liam wasn't his biological grandson? The news was a lightning bolt from a clear sky, striking her speechless and immobile. In contrast, Liam looked as if he'd known all along. So, he said calmly, you went from taking revenge on my grandmother to taking revenge on me. It wasn't a question. He had long suspected something was off about his parentage, but he had no interest in the grudges of a previous generation. In his memory, he had always been alone, a child from an unhappy home, destined for a life of solitude. So that means my father wasn't your biological son. You were jealous of my parents' love, so you did everything you could to keep them apart, but you never expected him to die on the battlefield. Liam's lips curved into a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. There was only a chilling calm. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's exactly how it was, Lawrence admitted without hesitation, a look of absolute victory on his face. But so what if you know? This is the open sea. Besides this yacht, I don't believe you can escape anywhere else. He gestured for the bodyguards to advance. Come back with me. I just want you to experience the same suffering I endured. As the dozen bodyguards closed in, Liam's face showed no trace of panic. He smiled, tightening his grip on the handle of his suitcase. Sorry, he said to Lawrence, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you. Lawrence froze, his eyes locking onto the suitcase handle. He was so shocked, he almost shot up from his wheelchair, but his useless legs gave way and he fell back heavily. What are you doing? Nothing much, Liam said with a laugh, pulling the suitcase up. Since you all want me so badly, and you're willing to use such despicable methods, I suppose my only option is to generously offer up my life. His expression was serene, as if he were discussing something that had nothing to do with him. This was his plan. If they all wanted him, if they were willing to threaten his friends to get him, then the only way to make them stop was for him to die. Sylvia's head snapped toward him, a horrifying realization dawning on her. The suitcase. It wasn't filled with gifts for her and Lawrence. It was. Before she could finish the thought, Liam leaned backward, right in front of everyone, and fell from the deck, taking the suitcase with him into the sea. Liam! Sylvia screamed, rushing to the railing. She gripped it, staring down at the water, but there was no trace of him. The sea was as calm as before, with only the sound of the waves and the cry of the gulls. Everyone present knew. Even if that suitcase contained diving gear, they were in the middle of the open sea, and a suitcase that size couldn't possibly hold enough equipment to get him anywhere. To jump from here was suicide. Consumed by panic, Sylvia climbed onto the railing, ready to follow him. But Jason grabbed her, restraining her. Miss Shaw, we can't have anything happen to you. Let go of me. Mr. Landon, I never knew you were this kind of person. You actually... Sylvia was frantic, about to scream curses, but Jason chopped the back of her neck, and she crumpled, unconscious. It wasn't just her. Lawrence couldn't accept it either. He couldn't accept that his plan, 20 years in the making, had been destroyed just like that. What did Liam take him for? A stranger passing on the street? How dare he make such a decision on his own? Why didn't he beg for mercy? In that moment, Lawrence felt a humiliation more profound than any he had ever known. He couldn't believe that in the face of his lifelong scheme, Liam's reaction had been so nonchalant. He refused to accept it. He could not accept this ending. Jason. Lawrence's voice was a low, menacing growl, as if forced through clenched teeth. Sir, mobilize the search and rescue teams. Get them in the water. I want him found, dead or alive. Now, drag his body out of that ocean if you have to. Yes, sir. Miss, there's no one at the villa. We've learned that Sylvia Shaw and Mr. Lynn went out to the open sea this morning. At a seaside villa, Evelyn Reed rushed in to report to Cassandra Thorne. Cassandra's eyes narrowed. Are our people in position? They are, but we still haven't located Leo and Chloe. Good. Cassandra's gaze turned icy as she stared out at the beautiful ocean view. Her voice was cold. Monitor the coast. Report any movement to me immediately. Miss, the Landon yacht has docked. Less than an hour later, Evelyn entered the room again, her face etched with a pained reluctance. Cassandra's face lit up. She shot to her feet and commanded, Notify our people. Surround them. I want to see Liam immediately. She was done waiting. In the 2 days he'd been gone, she hadn't been able to sleep. The thought of Sylvia doing to Liam the same thing she herself had done was a pain so sharp it left her breathless. She could not accept him being with Sylvia. Even though she had tried to mentally prepare herself, the reality was unbearable. Besides, when Liam had left, he hadn't offered a single word of reassurance. Their relationship had just started to thaw, she hadn't truly won his heart yet. How could she possibly let go now? Seeing Cassandra's urgency, Evelyn hesitated for a long moment before finally speaking. Miss. Noticing Evelyn's dithering, Cassandra's expression darkened. What? Are you disobeying my orders now? No. Evelyn waved her hands frantically. It's Mr. Lin. He's gone. What? Cassandra was thunderstruck. She stared at Evelyn, her face becoming a terrifying mask of fury, her voice lethally sharp. What do you mean he's gone? Explain yourself. Clearly, the force of her voice made Evelyn flinch. She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. Miss, our people on site report that Mr. Lin was not among those who disembarked from the landing yacht. Putting aside the possibility that Lawrence and Sylvia had hidden him, Liam was far too clever for that. When he was at the Thorn estate, he always had a way to escape. It was possible he had found a way out on his own. But on the open sea? How could anyone escape from there? Cassandra's brow furrowed. Have you investigated? Where did he go? She demanded. Evelyn bit her lip, finally relaying the information she had received. Our sources say no one saw him, and the Landon family has already requested a marine search and rescue team. The Solara Island authorities have taken over the case. The specific details are still unknown. She spoke nervously, wiping a bead of sweat from her temple. She knew better than anyone what Liam meant to her boss. If something happened to him, Cassandra would likely. To her surprise, Cassandra didn't fly into a rage. Instead, she fell into deep thought. She sat back down in her chair, resting her chin on her hand, and stared out at the sea. The stark contrast was completely unexpected. Everyone knew that if the Landon family had called in search and rescue, Liam had, in all likelihood, jumped into the ocean. This was the open sea, with unfathomable depths. Even with full equipment, a jump was dangerous, let alone under such tight surveillance. How could Liam have possibly prepared for that? But now, her boss wasn't panicking. She was silent. This abnormal reaction made Evelyn break out in a cold sweat. Had she gone into shock? Was she so devastated she couldn't even speak? A tremor of fear went through Evelyn. Miss, please don't be too upset, she said quickly. I've already instructed our people to acquire search equipment and begin looking for him at sea. However, before she could finish, Cassandra cut her off. Pull them back. Evelyn was stunned, her voice full of disbelief. Miss, what did you say? I said, pull all of our people back, Cassandra ordered without hesitation, adding a crucial instruction. And inform the coastal authorities? Anyone who dares to launch a search is making an enemy of the Thorn family. Apply pressure. No one is to go looking for him in the ocean. Evelyn's eyes widened. Was she hearing this right? Had her boss gone insane? Miss, if we do that, Liam. He could. He won't, Cassandra said, shaking her head with absolute certainty, a faint smile touching her lips. He won't. I trust Liam. If he dared to do this, he must have a foolproof plan. The best way I can help him is by getting rid of his pursuers. Once he's free, he'll come back to find me. Her words were filled with a conviction so strong it was as if they had planned it together, though she'd had no contact with him. Evelyn was astonished. Miss, you have that much confidence in Mr. Lin. He's my man, Cassandra said, her lips curving into a smirk as the sunlight streaming through the window illuminated her, making her glow. If I don't trust him, who can I trust? In that brief moment, the image seared itself into Evelyn's mind. She knew then that her boss had truly changed. She nodded. Yes, miss. I'll make the arrangements immediately and have a car ready for me when you're done. Cassandra stood up, her face cold, her voice imperious. It's time to settle some accounts. Yes, miss. The Landon party was resting at the Villa Sylvia had prepared for Liam. Lawrence had just sat down, a cup of tea not yet to his lips, when Jason burst in, clutching his phone. Sir, we just got a message from the search and rescue team. They say all of their boats have malfunctioned today. They can't set sail. Lawrence sprayed a mouthful of tea. That's a load of crap, he roared. They have that many boats, and not a single one is seaworthy? Who would believe that? But they haven't launched the search yet, sir. The person in charge is just dragging his feet. Consumed by rage, Lawrence yelled at Jason, Idiot! The incident happened here. On what grounds are they refusing to search? Jason remained silent. After a moment, Lawrence gradually calmed down. Someone is pressuring them. Find out who. Find out who is behind this. I want them to pay. He didn't really need an investigation to guess. The only power that could override the Landon family and pressure the authorities was, and how exactly do you plan to make me pay, Mr. Landon? Before Jason could finish his thought, an ice-cold voice drifted in from outside. Who's there? Jason snapped, instantly on alert. Cassandra Thorne strode into the room. She wore a stunning, form-fitting black silk dress, Her hair swept up in an elegant chignon, her feet shod in black patent leather heels. Her expression was as cold as a winter frost. Behind her followed more than 20 bodyguards in black, all fully armed, their eyes fixed on Lawrence and Jason. It was obvious what had happened to the guard station outside. Lawrence narrowed his eyes, studying the woman who had just stormed his villa. "Miss Thorne," he sneered, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" "Pleasure has nothing to do with it." Cassandra walked casually into the living room and sat down directly opposite Lawrence. Her army of bodyguards flooded the room, their collective gaze fixed on Lawrence and Jason, ready to pounce at the slightest hint of resistance. Lawrence glanced around, his eyes returning to Cassandra, his wariness palpable. "I wasn't aware you were visiting, Miss Thorne. Is there something I can help you with?" Cassandra didn't mince words. Her face was an arrogant, frozen mask. "I'm here to arrange your funeral." Insolence. Lawrence's smile vanished, his eyes turning cold. "You're a junior. Is that any way to speak to your elder?" His voice rose, a clear threat veiled in a claim of seniority. But Cassandra wasn't playing that game. "A joke," she scoffed, undisguised contempt in her voice. "You dare call yourself my elder? Are you even worthy?" The words nearly made Lawrence choke. Within a single day, he had encountered 2 lunatics, one who treated him like air and would rather die than be his pawn, and another who was so arrogant she saw no one but herself. Seeing Lawrence speechless, clutching his chest, his face turning purple, Cassandra sneered. Right in front of him, she made a grand declaration. "Already took care of that old bastard Grant Vance. You think you're any different?" Lawrence's face flushed crimson. He opened his mouth to retort, but inhaled saliva, breaking into a violent coughing fit. Cough, cough. Cassandra had no patience for it. She waved a dismissive hand. "Palmer, seize him. Take him back to Black Lake Manor." "Yes, miss." Palmer stepped forward to carry out the order. Jason immediately moved to block him, shielding Lawrence. From behind him, Lawrence raised a hand, his face still red. "You little bitch, you dare? I am Liam's grandfather. If you lay a hand on me, you can forget about him ever marrying you." He was hopelessly outmanned. His team was no match for Cassandra's. He had never imagined the Thorns would be on Solar Island. Sylvia had never mentioned that this madwoman had followed them. His only remaining card was Liam. Cassandra was obsessed with him, wasn't she? If she loved him, she would hesitate. And hesitation meant defeat. He was certain of it. If he invoked Liam's name, Cassandra would never dare to harm him. Just like when she'd attacked the Landon estate with helicopters. As terrifying as it was, she had held back, terrified of hurting Liam, and ultimately gave them a chance to escape. But this time, Lawrence had miscalculated. Cassandra showed no hesitation at all. She just looked at him calmly, as if observing a corpse. "Lawrence, do you really think I'm a fool?" Lawrence was stunned. "What do you mean?" he stammered. Cassandra sneered. "Why did Liam jump? If he truly saw you as family, he never would have done it. But he did jump. Do you really think he considers you his family?" Lawrence stared at her in disbelief. "When did you get here?" "To Solara Island?" Cassandra's lips curled. "I arrived the same day Sylvia Shaw kidnapped Liam." Her voice was a soft whisper, but her eyes grew darker, more menacing, tinged with a sick, possessive glint. "He is my man. Anyone who dares to touch him has committed a capital crime. She was a demon. I will not allow anyone to flaunt in my face that they have him." The pathological obsession in her eyes was unmistakable, her tone absolute. For the first time, Lawrence truly believed she was capable of murder. "You." He tried to say more, but Cassandra's cold command cut him off. "Palmer, what are you waiting for? Do it now." "Yes, miss." The bodyguards swarmed forward. As skilled as Jason was, he stood no chance against 20 elite operatives while trying to protect a crippled old man. In the end, both Lawrence and Jason were bound and bundled into a car, destined for a holding cell on the mainland. Cassandra surveyed the villa's living room and turned to Evelyn. "Evelyn, clear everyone out of here. Then set a fire. Burn it all down. A wedding suite? Burn it." "Yes, miss." Evelyn nodded and began searching the rooms with her team. In a room just off the living room, Evelyn found the unconscious Sylvia Shaw. When Cassandra was informed, she ordered Evelyn to bring a basin of water. The basin was held over Sylvia's head, and Cassandra gave the command without a flicker of emotion. "Pool." A torrent of ice-cold water crashed onto Sylvia's face. She choked, sputtering back to consciousness. As her vision cleared, she saw Cassandra sitting in a chair by the bed, staring at her with a cold, predatory gaze. "Where are Chloe and Leo?" Cassandra asked, her voice flat, cutting straight to the point without giving Sylvia a moment to breathe. "Chloe and Leo." The shock of the cold water had scrambled Sylvia's brain. She stared blankly at Cassandra, then down at her own soaking wet clothes. The damp chill made her shiver. As her mind cleared, her face turned ashen. A crazed, miserable laugh escaped her lips. Does it matter where they are? I'm not going to hurt them anymore. Cassandra frowned. Why not? She asked coldly. Because. Sylvia's head snapped up, her eyes wild as she looked at Cassandra, but her voice was filled with despair. Because Liam, he's dead. Dead. Cassandra shot to her feet, her composure shattering. She stared at Sylvia in disbelief, her voice sharp with panic. What did you say? Liam is dead? How is that possible? How could it not be? It was the open sea. He jumped from the yacht. The suitcase he had wasn't nearly enough to get him to shore. How could he possibly still be alive? Sylvia shrieked, her voice cracking as she ran out of strength. She shook her head, her face a mask of utter defeat. Impossible, Cassandra repeated, her voice firm. She lunged forward and grabbed Sylvia by the shoulders, her grip so tight it left red marks on the pale skin. There must have been boats nearby. He just needed to get to a nearby boat to be rescued. He didn't need to make it to shore. We had the shipping lanes cleared. We requisitioned that entire area. There were no other boats passing through. Now that Liam was dead, Sylvia had lost all will to fight. She just shook her head, lifelessly recounting the details to Cassandra. But Cassandra's world tilted on its axis. So, her order to stop the search and rescue teams had actually been the thing that stripped Liam of his last hope for survival. So, her brilliant deduction had been wrong. So, Liam was really dead? He's dead? In an instant, Cassandra's eyes flooded with crimson, as if they were filling with blood. Meeting Cassandra's blood-red eyes, Sylvia suddenly laughed, a wild, mocking sound that echoed through the room. Ha ha ha! Cassandra Thorne, you fought me for so long, but what was the point? He would rather jump into the ocean. He would rather die than be trapped by anyone. Did you really think you, Cassandra Thorne, with all the power of the Thorne family, could make him bow his head? It was all backward. Completely backward. Those were words Cassandra should have been saying, but now they were coming out as Sylvia's crazed, triumphant shrieks. A sudden, chilling calm descended over Cassandra. She slowly released her grip on Sylvia's shoulders, watching her silently. Then she raised her hand and, without hesitation, swung it across Sylvia's face. The sharp smack resounded through the room. The blow sent stars bursting behind Sylvia's eyes. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, and half of her face began to swell. She clutched her cheek, staring at Cassandra in disbelief. Why did you hit me? Do I need a reason to hit you? Cassandra ignored the stinging in her own palm, her teeth gritted, her sanity hanging by a thread. If you hadn't threatened him with his friends, do you think he would have jumped? And what about you? Sylvia shrieked back, her delicate features twisted into a monstrous snarl. Don't think I don't know about the Thorne family's methods. I don't believe for a second you never threatened him with them. For a split second, a flash of genuine pain crossed Cassandra's face, but it was gone as quickly as it came. She took a step forward, planting one foot on the bed and yanking Sylvia up by the collar, looking down at her with imperious rage. That's right. I did threaten him. So what? Why didn't my threats drive him to his death, but yours did? Her voice was a low growl, practically seeping from between her teeth. It's because you use people's lives as bargaining chips, poisoning them at the drop of a hat. The Shaw family is truly impressive, aren't you? With the last word, Cassandra raised her hand and slapped Sylvia again, just as hard. Another sharp crack echoed in the silence. Having lost the man she loved, Sylvia's will to live had already been extinguished. Now, facing Cassandra's relentless humiliation, her heart was nothing but a pile of cold ash. Though her face was swollen and raw, her eyes were vacant. Go ahead, she mumbled, her voice dead. Kill me. It's my fault. I shouldn't have believed Lawrence's lies. Just blame it all on me. It is your fault, Cassandra screamed. Seeing Sylvia's complete lack of resistance, she lost all desire to continue the fight. It was pointless. She shoved Sylvia away violently and roared toward the door. Evelyn, get your ass in here. Miss. Evelyn, who had been waiting right outside, rushed in. Go. Order the search and rescue teams to launch immediately. Get every helicopter the family owns in the air. Cassandra's fists were clenched so tight her body trembled. She gasped for air, as if suffocating. Her furious gaze fell on the corpse-like figure of Sylvia on the bed. Send her back to the Shaw family, she commanded, and tell my father I want the Shaws and the Landons utterly destroyed. Yes, miss. For the next 24 hours, a massive search operation combed the open sea nonstop. The news that dozens of helicopters had suddenly descended on the Solara Island marina became a trending topic online. People speculated wildly about what could have happened, but the topic was quickly suppressed. Instead, news of a Shaw wedding's cancellation exploded across the internet. First, a grand, ostentatious wedding announcement, and now, a sudden cancellation the day before the ceremony. The whiplash had online spectators marveling at how fickle the lives of the rich and powerful could be. At the Thorne compound, Caleb and Catherine Thorne were consumed by guilt. They had neglected their eldest daughter for years, leaving her to run the family empire while they traveled the world. Now, hearing that Liam had fallen into the sea, his fate unknown, they were terrified Cassandra would do something drastic. They immediately sent Riley to Solara Island overnight. By the time Riley reached Cassandra, 6 hours had passed since Liam's disappearance. The sky was pitch black. The sea, a churning abyss. Every factor was pushing Liam further toward death. The moment Riley entered the room, she saw her sister curled up on the sofa. The imperious woman from that morning was gone. Cassandra was a shrunken ball of misery, her eyes red-rimmed and shadowed with dark circles. She hadn't bothered with her appearance. Her face was pale and haggard. Seeing her usually proud sister in such a state brought tears to Riley's eyes. On the way over, she had prepared 100 jokes to lighten the mood, but seeing this shattered portrait of a woman, she couldn't utter a single one. Riley swallowed hard and tiptoed forward. Her lips moved, but only one word came out. "Sis." Cassandra's head shot up. A flicker of light appeared in her desolate eyes. "Did they find him?" she asked, her voice desperate. The hope in her sister's gaze was like a punch to the gut, stealing the air from Riley's lungs. She shook her head, the movement feeling impossibly heavy. The last spark of light in Cassandra's eyes died. She lowered her head, burying her face in her arms, and became as still and silent as a block of wood. Riley had never seen her sister like this. She looked like she had been abandoned by the entire world. The helplessness was a tangible thing, radiating from her even without an expression. Panicked, Riley tried again. "Sis, Evelyn just said they found the suitcase big brother Liam was carrying. They should be close to find." She stopped abruptly. What was she saying? They found the suitcase, but not the person. Didn't that mean she was just rubbing salt in her sister's wounds? "Sis, I didn't mean it like that, She stammered, waving her hands frantically. But Cassandra slowly raised her head. Her gaze drifted out the window to the inky blackness, and a strange, vacant smile spread across her face. It was the smile of a madwoman. The eerie sight sent a shiver down Riley's spine. "Sis," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please don't smile like that. You're scaring me." Even though she had lived with her sister for years and could usually guess what she was thinking right now, she was completely lost. Cassandra suddenly turned her head and looked straight at Riley. "Tell me," she asked, her voice chillingly calm, "do you think this is his way of getting revenge on me?" "Huh." Riley was completely baffled. Big brother Liam. He wouldn't. This was that bitch Sylvia and the Landon family's fault. Why would he get revenge on you? Then why didn't he tell me anything? Cassandra's voice rose, cracking. Tears streamed down her face as she finally let out all the pain and betrayal. "He didn't tell me his plan before he left. He never trusted me." She grabbed Riley's clothes, her eyes wild, as if she were seeing Liam right through her sister. "If he had just said one word, just given me a hint, I would have helped him. I would do anything for him. My entire being is his. If he asked me to die, I would do it. But why wouldn't he even tell me his plan? Am I that untrustworthy to him?" Riley's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Her sister was right. If Liam had just bent his pride a little, he wouldn't have even needed to ask Cassandra. He could have just approached the Thorne family, and not just Riley, but their parents too, would have willingly helped him. The Thorne family's power had always been an open offer to him, but Liam had never once reached out to accept it. He was always impossible to read, always alone. He never interfered with others, and he never wanted others to interfere with him. Maybe that was what had so captivated her sister in the first place. Thinking of this, Riley's admiration for Liam grew. She gripped her sister's shoulders firmly. "Sis, don't be afraid. The big brother Liam, I know, wouldn't die so easily. He must have had another plan. He must have." Her voice trailed off as her gaze fell on the dark, churning sea outside. Her confidence waned. What other plan could there be? The open sea at night treated everyone who sought their own death equally. Unless that person was the main character of a story. It was getting late. A storm was brewing, and heavy rain was forecast for the next day. If the search tonight failed, the chances tomorrow would be even slimmer. If they waited a few more days, they wouldn't find a person. In an ocean that vast, they might not find anything at all. Riley's heart sank. Her usual bubbly personality was replaced by a somber maturity. She patted Cassandra's shoulder gently. "Sis, Evelyn said you haven't slept in days. I'll keep watch tonight. You should rest. Haley is here too. We're all here for you." It was rare for such comforting words to come from her. What was even rarer was Cassandra's reaction. She suddenly looked up, glanced out the window, then wiped her tears. "Where are Chloe and Leo?" "They're back in New York. Evelyn had them get a full checkup. They're fine. Sis, don't worry about that now. Just rest for one night." "No, give me the company ledgers. Mom and Dad are handling the company," Riley said, growing frantic. "They feel terrible about what happened, so they're both working overtime right now." But Cassandra's eyes had gone flat and cold again. Her proud face was a pale, emotionless mask. She was once again the unapproachable Ice Queen. "Get them for me," she commanded. "I want the Landon and Shaw families to be gone by tomorrow." Her tone was so final that if Riley had dared to say no, she felt she would have been instantly annihilated. Riley didn't dare argue further. She could only nod. "Okay, then, you should freshen up first. There are a lot of documents. We need to organize them." Cassandra didn't reply. She pushed herself up from the sofa, her face a grim mask. But from the emotional turmoil and lack of sleep, her body swayed, and she nearly collapsed. Riley lunged forward and caught her just in time. Seeing her sister in this state was heartbreaking. "Sis, you're about to pass out," Riley pleaded. "Please don't deal with all that." Her words died in her throat as she met her sister's murderous glare. Riley fell silent. After helping her sister to her desk, Riley sighed and went out to tell Haley Lou to have the company files sent over. The search at sea continued. Like dominoes, the Landon and Shaw corporate empires began to crumble. The Walsh and Orwell families, who had been circling like vultures, swooped in to join the feast. The Orwells, in particular, had long coveted the economic power on Solara Island and finally saw their chance. After Sylvia was sent home, she became a living corpse, lying in bed, refusing to eat or speak. Kept alive only by glucose drip, she was like a person in a vegetative state. The sight shattered Wendy Shaw's heart, but what hurt even more was the massive boycott their mainland companies faced. It was as if the heavens were conspiring against them. Even on contracts where they were clearly in the right, they were ostracized simply for being a Solar Island company. The Orwell family, aiming to usurp them, not only engaged in ruthless competition, but also spent a fortune poaching their talent. They even shamelessly released counterfeit drugs that were nearly as effective as the originals. Fortunately, the Shaws were a pharmaceutical dynasty. The formulas for their top-tier drugs were exclusive family secrets. Despite being attacked on the mainland, they managed to hold on to their status on the island. Watching his daughter in her current state, Simon Shaw was utterly exhausted. "Sylvia, didn't I tell you? Our family doesn't venture out," he said, his heart aching as he looked at his daughter, who had been so strong for so long, only to have her spirit completely crushed. "But maybe this is for the best. I never wanted immense power or great wealth. All I ever wanted was for you and Stephen to grow up healthy and happy." The Landon family, however, was facing utter ruin, without a unique formula to sustain them. And with Lawrence locked away in the sub-basement of Black Lake Manor, the already fractured family had lost its cornerstone and collapsed into chaos. The Walsh and Orwell families devoured their assets, though no one dared to move into the main Landon estate, which was rumored to be haunted. Ultimately, the estate fell into the hands of the Thorne family. When the property was being cleared and sealed, Hayden Landon was discovered in a secret room. He was emaciated, barely recognizable as human. In a freezer, next to him were rows of glass jars filled with something that looked like shampoo. While everyone was busy changing jobs and seizing market share, there was still no news of Liam. 3 full days had passed. The search and rescue teams, along with countless helicopters, had been searching around the clock. But Liam had simply vanished. Not even a body had been found. Cassandra's body finally gave out. As she was reviewing a document, her vision went black. Her body swayed, and her forehead slammed onto the desk. She had passed out cold. "Miss." Evelyn was the first to find her. She had come in, as usual, to deliver a new stack of files, only to see Cassandra slumped over her desk, completely unresponsive. The moment Cassandra had insisted on working, the Thorns had flown in a full medical team and equipment. Now, Evelyn quickly administered a shot of glucose and, with the help of the staff, ran a full diagnostic check. To everyone's immense relief, Cassandra had only fainted from extreme exhaustion. Seeing Evelyn's own pale face, Riley was about to speak, but Evelyn gave her a subtle look. The two went out to the living room, where Haley Lou was waiting anxiously. She shot to her feet. How is she? She's just exhausted. Fainted from overwork. Evelyn sighed, gesturing for them to sit. This can't go on, Riley said, the words tumbling out of her. If my sister keeps pushing herself like this, her body is going to break down. I know, Evelyn said, her voice full of helplessness. She's been buried in those files nonstop. At this point, I'd be relieved if she just broke down and cried. But now she sighed again, trailing off. Haley bit her lip, then offered a suggestion. I might have an idea. At her words, Evelyn and Riley's eyes lit up. After a moment's thought, Haley slumped back in her seat. Never mind. It's a bit unethical. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Don't. Tell us. Let's hear it. Yeah, Haley, you're full of crazy ideas. At this point, we'll consider anything. Ugh. Haley hesitated, but seeing the desperate hope in their eyes, she squeezed her eyes shut, then opened them with an air of grim determination. What if, when she wakes up, Evelyn, you tell her she's pregnant? Seeing the shocked expressions on their faces, Haley's voice dropped to a whisper. Never mind, it's a terrible idea. It's too crazy. However, just as she was about to dismiss it, Riley's eyes lit up again. Haley, you are a genius, Riley exclaimed. Big brother Liam is gone, and my sister is a wreck. If she thinks she's pregnant with his child, she'll at least start eating and resting properly. And then, over time, she might be able to move on from this. While Riley was ecstatic, Evelyn's brow was deeply furrowed. No one knew better than her what Liam meant to Cassandra. The business with the Shaw and Landon families was almost over. Once that was done, knowing Cassandra's personality, she might stubbornly follow him to her death. It wasn't an exaggeration. After Sylvia had taken Liam, Cassandra had said she would even accept him choosing both of them. What was suicide compared to that? Besides, ever since Liam's disappearance, the only thing she asked about was the search. She hadn't spoken another word to them. If this continued, suicide was a very real possibility. Evelyn, what do you think? Say something. Seeing her silence, Riley grew anxious, shaking her arm. Evelyn snapped out of her thoughts and nodded slowly. Whatever it takes. Let's try it. The way she's destroying herself now isn't a solution. Then it's settled, Riley declared, her expression serious. I'll handle Mom and Dad. The three of us are on the same page. No one slips up. Evelyn and Haley had no objections. When Cassandra woke up again, dusk was falling. The lights in the room were on. She weakly raised an arm, pushing herself up from the bed. The slight movement alerted Evelyn, who was waiting outside. The door opened, and she strode in. Give me the company ledgers, Cassandra said, her voice raspy. The moment she sat up, she was determined to get out of bed. Evelyn's eyes flickered. She moved to support her. Miss, you can't overwork yourself right now. You. Are my words meaningless now? Cassandra cut her off, her eyes cold and emotionless. A shiver went down Evelyn's spine. She swallowed hard and delivered the pre-rehearsed line. Miss you, you're pregnant. You can't put your body under this much stress. Can't you under what? Cassandra was about to lose her temper, but stopped, the words finally registering. She stared at Evelyn in shock, her hand shooting out to grip her shoulders, her eyes turning red again. What did you say? Who? Her expression made Evelyn's stomach churn with guilt. She took a deep breath to steady herself. It's you, miss. You're 1 month pregnant. She swallowed again, silently thankful for the wild, sleepless nights Cassandra and Liam had spent together. It made the timeline she had concocted more plausible. Cassandra's eyes widened. In disbelief, she looked down at her own flat stomach. Her hand trembled as she raised it, pressing her palm against her abdomen. It was hard to believe that a new life, a month old, was growing there. So, you must rest now, miss, Evelyn urged, her own hands trembling as she supported Cassandra. You can't overexert yourself. The first 3 months are the most critical. This was the first time since she had started working for Cassandra that she had ever lied to her. If someone had told her in the past that her first lie to her boss would be something this monumental, she would never have believed it. Life was truly unpredictable. The hardness in Cassandra's eyes finally softened. She caressed her stomach, then looked up at Evelyn. Are you talking about that time a month ago? Yes. Evelyn took a deep breath. It was right after you and Mr. Lynn saw each other in Vegas. You had a lot to drink that night. The time I was drinking? Cassandra's gaze drifted into the distance. She remembered that day. It was after Liam had escaped from the Landon family, after she had flown her helicopter from one end of the coast to the other, only to be stood up multiple times. They had met in that bar in Vegas. She had been in a terrible mood and drank too much. So much that she couldn't even remember how she got back to the hotel, or what madness she had engaged in while drunk. She only remembered the morning after, her head splitting open, her face stinging with the phantom heat of what felt like slap marks. And Liam, tenderly applying a cool cloth to her forehead. Cassandra narrowed her eyes, her gaze fixed on Evelyn, a look so sharp it seemed to pass straight through her and into the very core of her soul. "Evelyn," Cassandra said, a humorless smile playing on her lips. "This is a truly pathetic excuse." She saw right through it. How is that possible? Liam was the one who carried her into the hotel that night. Did nothing happen between them? That just didn't fit with their wild, combustible dynamic. Evelyn forced a goofy, subservient grin. "Ma'am, how could I possibly lie to you? I've already run the tests. Based on the gestational timeline, it had to be that night." Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Evelyn was gambling. She was betting that whenever Cassandra and Liam got together, something explosive was bound to happen. Even if Liam held back, Cassandra's forceful personality would never let him get away that easily. But Cassandra just shook her head slightly. She knew exactly what Evelyn was doing, saying anything to protect her, to keep her from spiraling. It was a well-intentioned lie, and she couldn't be angry about it. For the first time in days, the crushing tension in her chest eased slightly. Cassandra sighed, leaning back against the headboard and staring up at the ceiling. Her memory drifted. "I don't remember much about that night," she said softly, "but I do know I was fully dressed when I woke up the next morning. Liam wouldn't. He wouldn't do something like that to me in that state. He was too honest, too decent in his own infuriating way. How could he take advantage of her when she was drunk and weak?" Seeing the conviction on Cassandra's face, Evelyn panicked. It wasn't just about picking any day. It had to be that one. It was the most recent, most plausible window. Cassandra had been diligent with her birth control before the assault on the Landon estate, but she'd stopped after cornering Liam. Any earlier, and she'd be 2 months along, and the physical signs would become undeniable. The lie would fall apart. It had to be that night. Evelyn steeled herself, deciding to double down. "Ma'am, are you really so sure, mister? Lynn wouldn't do anything." Cassandra turned her head, her eyes questioning. Taking a deep breath, Evelyn forged ahead. "The truth is, mister, Lynn has feelings for you. You're too close to see it. You were so drunk that night, you could barely stand. He didn't hesitate. He just walked over and swept you into his arms." She recounted the events of that night again, adding a generous dose of dramatic flair. "I was about to stop him, but as he held you in his arms, he said something to me." "What did he say?" Cassandra's voice was suddenly urgent, her eyes burning with a desperate need to know. Evelyn inhaled sharply. "He said, if she wakes up and I'm not here, she'll lose her mind." The words landed like a physical blow. Cassandra sat bolt upright, her hand shooting out to grab Evelyn's arm. Her expression was a frantic, hopeful mess. Are you telling the truth? Did he really say that?" Seeing the raw hope in her boss's eyes, Evelyn swallowed hard. At this point, it was her word against the ghosts, wasn't it? They were already on this path. Might as well see it through to the end. "Yes," Evelyn said, nodding emphatically, piling on more fiction. He was dead serious. The look in his eyes. It was so intense, so possessive. "I swear, if I had tried to stop him from carrying you, he would have knocked me out." The surprise in Cassandra's eyes grew. Evelyn, sensing she had her hooked, threw more fuel on the fire. "Ma'am, if you ask me, his possessiveness is just as strong as yours. Think about it. Even after he stood you up, he was the one who initiated contact again, wasn't he? He was testing you, playing the long game. After all that plotting, what do you think happened when he finally had you alone? It was a spark hitting a powder keg." Evelyn spoke with such conviction that she almost started to believe it herself. Seeing Cassandra's expression melt into pure, unadulterated joy, she felt a flash of pride. For a first-timer, she was a damn good liar. Without Evelyn's embellishments, Cassandra never would have believed it. But now, with a supposed eyewitness, how could she not? So you're saying, that night, we actually... Cassandra was so overcome with happiness, she could barely form a sentence. The most thrilling part wasn't what happened, but the idea that he had felt something for her all along. But then, a flicker of confusion crossed her face. "But why was I still wearing my clothes when I woke up?" "Oh, man, he was embarrassed." Evelyn shot back without hesitation. "Think about it. He'd already run away from you once. But he couldn't resist seeing you again because he likes you. He crossed the line, did something you shouldn't have, and then got shy. He'd dress you again to cover his tracks so you wouldn't find out and make fun of him." It was as if she'd unlocked some hidden talent for deception. The lies flowed effortlessly. In reality, her logic was full of holes. If he truly liked her, if he'd truly been planning this, he wouldn't have taken advantage of her while she was drunk and helpless. He would have felt protective, even tender. But Cassandra's mind was no longer capable of rational thought. Evelyn's words sent her spiraling back to that morning. She'd woken up, and Liam had been sitting on the couch, playing on his phone, acting completely aloof. Later, when she'd emerged from the bathroom in a robe and teased him, he'd petulantly rolled over on the couch, turning his back to her like a pouting child. He really was obsessed with his pride. The memory of Liam's silhouette softened Cassandra's expression. She raised a hand to her stomach, a gentle, radiant light filling her eyes. "So, I really am pregnant." "It's the absolute truth," Evelyn said, her voice firm. A slow smile spread across Cassandra's lips. She looked out the window at the inky black sky, Liam's face flashing through her mind. Leaning back against the headboard, she murmured, "Go get me something to eat. I'm hungry." As she said the word, hungry, the image of Evelyn in front of her seemed to flicker and transform into Liam. She was always saying that to him. He would scoff at her, but still obediently fetch her food. Sometimes he would even feed her bite by bite. But Liam was gone now. She had, on Rory's advice, started taking fertility supplements, but she never imagined a child would have been conceived before all that. If Liam were still here, if he heard she was pregnant, he would be shocked. A man who always had freedom gleaming in his eyes. What kind of face would he make knowing he was going to be a father? It was something Cassandra had always longed to see. Now she never would. Liam would never know. Her eyes darkened, a profound desolation settling over her. She heard Evelyn open the door and lead a few maids in, carrying trays of simple, light food. Beside the trays was a small pill bottle. When Cassandra's gaze fell on the bottle, Evelyn quickly explained, "Ma'am, the fetal heartbeat is a little unstable. I prepared some medication. Please take one after your meal." Cassandra caressed her stomach. "Okay," she replied softly. As a maid set the food on the bedside table, she called out, "Evelyn." "Yes, ma'am." Evelyn, busy arranging the table, answered immediately. "What do you need?" "Prepare Maplewood Manor. On the 1st of next month, I'm marrying Liam there." Evelyn's hands froze. She looked at Cassandra in disbelief. "Ma'am, he's dead. You're going to marry a dead man." The words were on the tip of Evelyn's tongue, but seeing the life finally return to Cassandra's eyes, she couldn't bring herself to say something so cruel. But Cassandra knew what she was thinking. She smiled faintly, stroking her stomach, her cold eyes filled with an unprecedented warmth. "Just do it. My child with Liam deserves a proper family." She refused to let their child be born with the stigma of having no father. This child belonged to her and Liam was the only man she would ever acknowledge. To put it another way, no one but Liam Thorne would ever be her husband. Seeing the unshakable resolve in Cassandra's eyes, Evelyn swallowed hard. The protests died in her throat. She was more panicked than anyone, because this pregnancy was a lie she had created. The whole point was to get Cassandra back on her feet, to help her move on. She never imagined the lie would drag Cassandra deeper into the mire. But the first lie had been told. There was no going back. It takes 1,000 more lies to cover one. And Evelyn knew she wasn't clever enough for that. She took a deep breath. Then, "Ma'am, should we invite guests to this wedding? Please just let it be the family." "Don't." "Of course," Cassandra said without a moment's hesitation. "Which of the great families are left? The Orwells and the Walshes, right? Invite them. Oh, and send an invitation to the Shaws, too. In short, make it as grand and spectacular as possible. My wedding to him must be magnificent. When he was alive, she hadn't done enough, hadn't made him feel cared for. Now that he was gone, he still deserved a place to belong." She cradled her stomach. Even if she was the only one left, she had to stand up for them both. Evelyn was speechless. This was exactly what she had feared. A wedding was one thing, but to make it a massive, public spectacle. When all the prestigious guests arrived, the groom would be absent. The bride would be standing at the altar alone. The mere thought of that image was suffocating. What kind of strength would it take to endure that? She couldn't bear to see her proud, powerful boss face that scene alone, a scene filled with scornful, pitying eyes. "Ma'am, maybe we should reconsider. You'll be up there all by yourself." How will I be by myself?" Cassandra looked up, her beautiful face wreathed in a smile. "You, Haley, and Riley will be there, won't you? My parents will be there. With all of you backing me up, I'm not afraid." It was the first time Evelyn had ever heard Cassandra speak like that. She was moved, but that feeling was quickly overwhelmed by a profound sense of pity, a pity that was intensifying by the second. "Ma'am, what I mean is the groom. That's why I said the 1st of next month. We have half a month. Go and hire some master sculptors." Cassandra pulled out her phone. The moment the screen lit up, she caressed it lovingly before handing it to Evelyn. "Have them make a statue. Who says there won't be a groom?" Evelyn stared at the handsome face on the screen. It was a photo of Liam from the reality show, lying on the beach with an expression of serene indifference. She'd seen that screensaver once before, a long time ago. She couldn't believe Cassandra was still using it. Cassandra's devotion was beyond anything Evelyn could have imagined. At this point, she had no more arguments. She nodded stiffly. Yes, ma'am. I understand. She glanced around the room. Then, ma'am, please rest after you eat. If you feel unwell, just press the call button. Haley, Riley, and I will be right outside. Cassandra replied, picking up a spoon and taking small sips of broth. When Evelyn stepped out of the room, she found Haley and Riley waiting anxiously. She let out a long sigh. The boss is holding a wedding on the 1st of next month. The single sentence was a bombshell. Haley and Riley froze, their eyes wide with shock. What? My sister's getting married? To who? Riley demanded. Evelyn shot her a look. Are you dumb? Who else could it be but your brother Liam? Riley's jaw dropped. No way. But brother Liam is. Has my sister lost her mind? It would be better if she actually had lost her mind. Haley sighed, her face a mask of helplessness. I told you this was a boneheaded idea. What do we do now? What can we do? She's already figured out how to use a statue as a stand-in for the groom. We just have to bite the bullet and go along with it. Evelyn looked equally defeated. This was a cursed relationship. From the moment Cassandra brought Liam to Black Lake Manor, it was all doomed from the start. Haley was out of ideas. She looked at Riley. Maybe you should get your parents to talk to her. Forget it. When it comes to my sister, my parents have less influence than I do, Riley said with an eye roll. Besides, they support everything she does. I doubt they'd object this time, either. Riley was right. When Caleb and Catherine Thorne heard the news that Cassandra was marrying Liam on the 1st of next month, they didn't object. In fact, they deeply respected her choice. As someone who had been through it all, Caleb understood his daughter better than anyone. His own pursuit of Catherine had been a rocky road, but the difference was he could see a happy ending. His daughter was stepping into an abyss. This is a joyous occasion, Catherine. We should be happy, Caleb said, seeing his wife's tear-streaked face. He pulled her into a hug, comforting her softly. What's joyous about it? I can't just watch her become a widow. Catherine sobbed, her heart aching so much she could barely breathe. Caleb pulled a tissue and gently wiped her tears. Don't say that. We'll all be there for her. Besides, this is her choice. As parents, we have to respect our daughter's decision. This is all your fault for bringing up the pregnancy. If it weren't for that, would she be so determined to get married? Catherine's eyes were swollen from crying. She had been very fond of Liam, and she never expected things to end this way. What was worse was the depth of Cassandra's feelings for him. Sigh. Caleb sighed at the mention of it. We can't blame Evelyn and the others. They were just trying to help her move on. Knowing Cassandra's personality, she probably would have made the same choice even if she knew she wasn't pregnant. The road ahead is long. Once some time has passed and our daughter has healed, we can gently tell her the truth. Catherine's emotions gradually settled. She wiped her tears, resigned. I suppose that's all we can do for now. She looked at Caleb. Go to the UK and ask my parents to come back. You should be the one to tell them, Caleb. I can't bring myself to do it. Okay. Caleb nodded, stroking her head gently. Leave it to me. While Cassandra was in her period of convalescence, Haley and Riley were tasked with overseeing the sculptors. As the person who had spent the most time with Liam besides Cassandra, Riley's input, combined with the skills of the top artists in the industry, meant a prototype of Liam's statue was quickly taking shape. Meanwhile, news of the Thorne wedding spread like wildfire through their social circles. The Orwell and Walsh families, indebted to the Thornes after they helped them swallow up the land and assets, beat the drums and promoted the event enthusiastically. The Thorne family, the economic titan behind Zenith Corp, finally stepped out of the shadows. The grand wedding became the biggest news of the month. Chloe and Leo, who were temporarily staying with the Thornes, also saw the news. Miss Thorne is getting married. Chloe clutched her phone, looking at Leo, her voice strained. Leo nodded, his fingers swiping across his own screen. I see it. The groom hasn't been named. You don't think it's Brother Liam, do you? I don't think it could be anyone else, Chloe replied, her eyes instantly welling with tears. She had once wondered if Liam wasn't her brother, if they might have had a chance together. Now, the thought felt incredibly foolish. How could she have been so stupid? Her brother had fallen into the sea and hadn't been seen since. He was almost certainly gone, and yet Cassandra was still determined to marry him. It was a level of courage she could never match. Her own crush, her own feelings, were like dust motes compared to the towering monument of Cassandra's love. Hearing Chloe's soft words, Leo's eyes reddened too. Although their own families hadn't been found yet, the Thornes were now involved, so it was only a matter of time. But both he and Chloe knew that while they were unconscious, it was Liam who had paid the ultimate price, his life, in exchange for their cure. "We can't just sit here and do nothing," Leo said, putting his phone away, his expression resolute. Chloe started. "Leo, what are you planning to do?" "I want to start a business. With the money we have left, we have to do something, right?" Leo forced a bitter smile. "We're living at the Thorn estate day after day. This can't go on." "You're right. If it weren't for my brother, the Thorns never would have taken us in. We can't keep living off his sacrifice." Chloe nodded vigorously, but her face quickly fell. "But the Landons are gone. I only have about $1 million. How can we start a business?" Leo frowned, looking intently at Chloe. After a long moment, he said, "Chloe, you were a top student at Columbia, right? In the business program?" "Yes, I was." "You didn't go for your master's, did you?" "My family wanted me to, but I was in a hurry to get a job and help out at home, so I didn't." "Why?" "I still have the $1 million brother Liam gave me." Leo murmured. "What if we apply to study abroad, get a better education, and our opportunities will be much better when we come back?" "I think that's a great idea." Chloe nodded eagerly, but her newfound courage quickly deflated. "But I haven't studied in so long. Getting into a foreign university might be difficult." Leo, however, was filled with determination. "Brother Liam saved our lives. He wasn't afraid. Why should we be?" At the mention of Liam, Chloe's spirits surged back. "You're right. My brother wasn't afraid, so I won't be either. It's settled. We'll prepare everything now, and after we attend my brother's wedding, we'll leave the country." The woman who was just speaking was that Evelyn Reed, at the Shaw residence, in an elegantly appointed bedroom. Sylvia Shaw turned her head slightly on the bed. Her already slender frame was gaunt, and 4 needle taped to her arm. The simple act of turning her head seemed to require an immense effort. Seeing his daughter, who hadn't spoken in 3 days, finally speak, Simon Shaw's face lit up with emotion. He rushed to the bedside, his eyes red. "Yes, that was her. Sylvia, you're finally talking." Ignoring her father's excitement, Sylvia asked in a monotone, "What did she come for?" "She—" Simon hesitated. Meeting his daughter's hollow eyes, he found himself unable to speak. Sylvia raised a weak hand and tugged gently at his arm. The small gesture seemed to drain all the strength from her body, which hadn't had a drop of water in 3 days. Simon sighed, forced to tell her the truth. "It's about Cassandra Thorne, the eldest daughter of the Thorne family. She's getting married." "What?" Sylvia's eyes widened in disbelief. She stared at her father, her voice raspy and strained. Who is she marrying?" Simon didn't know what to say. He had opened the gilded invitation Evelyn handed him. On the line for the groom, in bold script, were the words, "Liam Lynn." Even if there were others with the same name, it couldn't be a coincidence. Cassandra knew Liam was dead, yet she was not only marrying him, but holding a lavish, world-famous ceremony. As a man who had loved and lost, Simon understood perfectly. And Sylvia, seeing her father's silence, understood everything too. She had thought she was the craziest one, the one who loved Liam the most. But what Cassandra was doing went beyond her wildest imagination. To know he was dead and still set foot on this path of no return. The great Cassandra Thorne, marrying a dead man on her wedding day. Was it a testament to her deep love, or a sign she had completely lost her mind? Simon didn't answer his daughter's unspoken question. Instead, he looked at her, his expression serious. "Sylvia, tell me, what are your feelings for Liam? Truly, was it love, or was it merely possession?" The former was complex. The latter was just about satisfying an urge. "I don't know," Sylvia answered irritably, as if the thought hadn't even crossed her mind. Simon was taken aback. "You don't know? It has to be one or the other, like or dislike, right?" An answer? She wanted one too. In the beginning, she had been searching for him for years. Then Lawrence Landon told her Liam had been found. But when she finally saw him, there was another girl by his side. She could see that even when they weren't speaking, Liam's subconscious reactions were all for that girl. That lit a fire under her, a desire to compete. How dare he? After she had searched for so long, the result was that he had fallen for someone else. Her feelings had curdled after that discovery. It was no longer purely about finding Liam. It was about snatching him back because she was the one who had known him first. It all led to this. To Liam jumping off the ship without a moment's hesitation, without even a flicker of pity in his eyes for her. If he had truly cared, would he have chosen the ocean over her? The more Sylvia thought about it, the more agitated she became. "There is no answer." "I don't know," she snapped, clearly dismissing him. Simon took a deep breath and didn't press further. He clutched the invitation. "All right, I won't ask anymore. I'll decline. We won't attend the wedding. You get some rest, Sylvia. Once you're feeling better." Before he could finish, Sylvia snatched the invitation from his hand. She flipped it open, her eyes fixing on the name Liam Lynn. Her voice was firm. Of course we're going. Simon froze. She sent the invitation personally. If we don't go, it would be a terrible slight. Sylvia raised a hand, her fingertip tracing the gilded letters of Liam's name. A small smile touched her lips, her gaze softening. Besides, how could I possibly miss his wedding? Simon's expression became incredibly complex. It was possible his daughter just wanted to go and watch the spectacle, but his daughter's wishes came first. And hadn't the invitation been delivered by an envoy from Cassandra Thorne herself? His gaze softened. He squeezed Sylvia's hand, his tone firm. All right, I'll go with you. September 1st. Maplewood Manor was a scene of extraordinary splendor. Countless luxury cars were parked both inside and outside the estate. Inside, an army of servants efficiently welcomed one prestigious family after another. Wealth and power converged on this glittering day, the glory of the top families reaching its zenith. Within the estate's palace-like hall, lights blazed, glasses clinked, and soft, elegant music drifted through the air. I thought Miss Thorne's wedding would be in a grand cathedral, but it's at her home, Owen Orwell remarked, surveying the opulent surroundings with unconcealed surprise. Who knows? I didn't even know the Thornes had built an estate here, Warren Walsh replied with a laugh. Thanks to the Thornes' recent power plays, the Orwell and Walsh families had seen their fortunes soar. Also in attendance was the newly risen Taft family. The family head, Todd Taft, was clearly new to this kind of event, smiling broadly while obsequiously offering toast to everyone. Mr. Orwell, Mr. Walsh, a pleasure to meet you. Todd Taft grabbed a cocktail from a passing servant, gestured to the two men, and pulled a young man forward. This is my son, Theo. Theo, hurry, greet your uncles. Offer them a toast. Owen Orwell and Warren Walsh exchanged a look, but didn't respond. As Theo took a glass and bowed, Owen spoke up. Todd, we're guests at the Thorne wedding today. This isn't our show. Warren Walsh narrowed his eyes, a glint of amusement in them. It looked like there was going to be some entertainment after all. Well, it's our family's first time at an event like this. Todd Taft scratched his head, looking embarrassed. He glanced around. Hey, has the groom come out yet? I heard he's that kid from the old Landon family. His words fell flat, completely ignored. Todd looked awkward, but then he spotted Simon Shaw and his family entering the main hall, and his eyes went wide with shock. Why are the Shaws here? The Thornes invited them to. He looked at Owen and Warren in utter disbelief. After all, his family had just bought one of the Shaw's mainland companies, sold off at a low price. He never expected to run into them here. As Simon Shaw entered with his wife, Wendy, and their daughter, Sylvia, Todd's expression was stiff. Owen and Warren exchanged another look. Though they said nothing, everyone present was a person of power and influence. They had all heard whispers about the drama between the Landons, the Shaws, and the Thornes. The last engagement party they'd attended was for Sylvia Shaw and Liam Lynn. Now, it was a wedding for Liam Lynn and Cassandra Thorne. The relationship between them didn't need to be spelled out. Both families understood perfectly. What was surprising was that the Shaw family had shown up at all, and so calmly. Evelyn approached, inviting the family heads to their seats. When she saw Sylvia, her expression hardened. She was about to issue a warning, but Sylvia beat her to it. I know what you're going to say. Evelyn paused, surprised. Sylvia smiled faintly, sitting upright with perfect poise. Don't worry. Since I decided to attend as a guest, I have no intention of causing a scene. I just want to see how ridiculous a wedding with no groom can be. I just want to laugh at Cassandra Thorne. Since she'd said as much, Evelyn had nothing more to add, but she still gave a final, uneasy warning. The miss can't handle any more major shocks. With that, she went to greet other guests. The words, however, infuriated Sylvia. What do you mean, she can't handle it? Aziefi king. But she was, after all, partly responsible for Liam's death. The anger that flared up was just as quickly suppressed. Todd Taft looked awkwardly at Simon Shaw. Mr. Shaw, I certainly didn't expect to see you here. Simon merely glanced at him without a word. This arrogant dismissal was enough to set Theo Taft off. Dad, why are you being so polite to these washed-up losers? His loud pronouncement caused everyone nearby to turn and stare. Warren Walsh was still smiling, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. The Shaw family didn't even bother to look up. Owen Orwell, however, looked displeased. I say, you Taft shouldn't get cocky, just because you got lucky. Theo was about to retort when his father slapped him back down into his seat. It was a rare sight. That the Shaws and the Thornes could coexist so peacefully was already beyond Todd's imagination. What he couldn't fathom was how these powerful families, usually a hotbed of intrigue and backstabbing, could be so harmonious. If his senses weren't deceiving him, this was genuine harmony. The scene shocked him. On the stage, the master of ceremonies had appeared and was delivering the opening remarks. Todd quickly changed the subject. By the way, we've been sitting here for a while. Where are the bride and groom going to enter from? Owen's attention was diverted. He looked around, his gaze finally settling on the large bedroom doors at the back of the hall. Probably there. Based on the layout, the lighting seems aimed right at it. A bedroom? Isn't that door a little small? Might be a tight squeeze for two people, Warren couldn't help but remark. He then pointed to a tall object covered by a white cloth in the center of the stage. And I've been meaning to ask, what's under that thing? Why is it stacked so high? Following his finger, Owen stared at it and shrugged. Beats me. The Shaws didn't speak, but they were clearly curious about the same thing. Sylvia narrowed her eyes, scanning the hall. She was dying to see how Cassandra would get through a ceremony without a groom, and how she would mock her afterward. But she was never given the chance. As the MC finished his opening, he announced, "And now, let us welcome the bride." The entire hall erupted in applause. There was no mention of a groom. Sylvia stared, stunned, as the large doors near the stage opened. Amidst flashing lights, Cassandra Thorne appeared in a magnificent, snow-white wedding gown, holding a bouquet, a serene smile on her face as she walked toward the stage. Not far behind her, Leo and Chloe followed, dressed immaculately, along with Evelyn and Haley. They were all people she knew. In front of everyone, Cassandra, wearing heels encrusted with diamonds, lifted the hem of her dress and gracefully ascended the steps, a radiant smile on her face. One step, then another. When she reached the center of the stage, Evelyn and Haley stepped forward. They reached up and pulled away the white cloth. Beneath it, a life-sized, perfect statue of Liam Lynn was revealed. The entire hall gasped in a single, unified wave of shock. Sylvia looked from Evelyn to Cassandra's parents, who were seated at the main table. They were smiling, but their eyes were filled with an unbearable sorrow. She watched in stunned silence as the MC recited the vows. "Bride, do you, at this sacred moment, in the presence of all your friends and family, solemnly swear to be forever faithful to your partner, to cherish him for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, for the rest of your life?" Amidst the shocked murmurs, Cassandra smiled up at the statue of Liam and said without hesitation, "I do." She personally placed the bouquet in the statue's arms, then took a ring from a velvet box held by an attendant and slid it onto the ring finger of its left hand. She's insane. Cassandra Thorne is insane. She's marrying a statue. Sylvia was too shocked to speak. It wasn't just her. Every single guest was stunned. Except for the Shaw family. No one knew Liam was already dead. But even knowing he was gone, Cassandra was insistent on holding this wedding. Everyone watched, dumbfounded, as Cassandra bowed to her parents. Then, Caleb Thorne took her hand and placed it in the statue's hand. Swoosh! Sylvia shot to her feet. On stage, Cassandra's eyes were slightly red, but she smiled and nodded at her parents. Then she looked directly at Sylvia. With complete composure, she lifted the hem of her dress and walked straight toward the Shaw family's table. As Cassandra drew closer, Sylvia was so shocked she stammered. "You're insane. I'm perfectly lucid." Despite being mocked in front of so many people, Cassandra didn't get angry. She smiled. She looked at Simon and Wendy Shaw and said with magnanimous grace, "Uncle Simon, Aunt Wendy, although Liam is no longer with us, you were the parents who raised him. As his wife, I felt it was my duty to bow to you. This is why I invited you here today." At her words, Simon and Wendy Shaw froze. They had never imagined Cassandra would say something like this. The stunned Sylvia was also taken aback. She stared at Cassandra, remembering their first meeting. She had made a few snide remarks, and Cassandra had coldly pulled a gun on her. But now, the notoriously domineering Cassandra Thorne had a look of gentle sincerity on her face. This wasn't her. This wasn't Cassandra's style at all. The gazes of everyone in the room shifted to Simon Shaw. Under the weight of their stares, he stood up and said politely, "Miss Thorne, you flatter us." Cassandra shook her head slightly, smiling. "There is no flattery. Liam may be gone, but it's my responsibility to handle his affairs with dignity." With that, in front of everyone, she bowed deeply to Simon and Wendy. That single bow transformed the hostile look in Sylvia's eyes into something far more complex. It wasn't just that Liam was dead. She had personally watched him jump from the ship. In that moment, and in the days that followed, she had been heartbroken, but mostly, she had been furious with him. He had jumped without a word, an act of finality that proved he had never truly cared for her. But upon learning of his death, Cassandra, beyond her grief, had taken it upon herself to manage his legacy, even going so far as to marry him. If she had done it secretly, Sylvia could have understood. But Cassandra had chosen to announce it to the world, inviting nearly every prominent family in New York. Did she have any idea what she was doing, marrying a dead man? Had she thought about her future at all? Sylvia was at a loss for words. She had never imagined a scene like this. She simply didn't have the courage for such a grand, tragic gesture. To imagine spending the next several decades of her life devoted to a memory. She couldn't do it. This war, in the end, was her loss. Her expression was a mix of emotions. She stared at Cassandra, and finally, without causing any more trouble, she sat down. Seeing his daughter surrender, Simon understood. A smile touched his face. Liam was a mischievous boy when he was young. Cassandra, you should come over to the house sometime. Let Winnie tell you some stories. His words were an undeniable endorsement of Cassandra. Setting aside her status as the Thorn heiress, few people in the world possessed such character. Instantly, the entire hall burst into genuine, heartfelt applause. Everyone understood that marrying a dead man required an incredible amount of courage and conviction. The expressions on their faces were no longer shock, but sincere blessing. Miss Thorne, congratulations on your wedding. Warren Walsh stood up, representing his family, and raised a glass to Cassandra. Behind her, Leo and Chloe stepped forward to accept the toasts on her behalf. Normally, the bride and groom would drink together, but now, seeing her friend stepping in, no one said a word. The wedding feast lasted the entire day. By the end of it, Leo and Chloe approached Caleb Thorne to announce their plan to study abroad. When they presented their acceptance letters to a university in the UK, Caleb simply nodded and had Haley arrange their flights. As night fell, the guests departed. The vast hall, once filled with revelry, was now home only to servants quietly cleaning up. The daytime opulence felt like a mirage that had vanished in the blink of an eye. Evelyn appeared at Cassandra's bedroom door, holding a tray. "Ma'am, you barely ate all day. I brought you something." From inside, Cassandra's calm voice replied, "Okay." Evelyn pushed the door open. The room was dark, the moonlight from the massive French windows spilling across the carpet. All traces of the day's celebration were gone. On the sofa, Cassandra lay wrapped in a thin silk nightgown, an English-language book in her hands, her expression one of utter desolation. Evelyn's heart sank. She hurried forward, pulled a small table over, and placed the food on it. "Ma'am, I added some medication to this. It should help with your morning sickness." Of course, that was a lie. There would be no morning sickness. Cassandra wasn't pregnant. Cassandra, however, wasn't suspicious. She even smiled. "I was wondering why I haven't had any morning sickness. You're always so thoughtful." Evelyn fell silent. Meeting Cassandra's smiling gaze, her conscience felt like it was being roasted over an open flame. Cassandra didn't notice. She picked up a spoon and began sipping her broth. Where are Chloe and Leo? They were accepted into a master's program at a university in the UK. Mr. Thorne booked their tickets. They should be on their way there now. Evelyn sighed. She had never felt the contrast between festive noise and desolate silence so acutely. Cassandra's eyes flickered, but she said nothing more than, "Good. It's good for them to go. Help them if they need anything. They have ambition." Hearing the flat tone of her voice, Evelyn felt a sting in her nose. She quickly covered her mouth and mumbled, "Well, if there's nothing else, ma'am, I'll be outside. Just ring if you need anything." Hearing Cassandra's acknowledgement, Evelyn turned and practically fled the room. The moment the door closed behind her, tears began to stream down her face. She leaned against the door, covering her face, listening intently. There was no sound from inside, not even a single sob. The boss wasn't crying, but Evelyn couldn't stop. What had her boss done to deserve such a cursed, tragic path in love? She slid down the door, sinking to the floor, her muffled sobs escaping from between her arms. Inside and out, separated by a wall, Evelyn didn't know what was going through Cassandra's mind, but in that instant, she admitted it. Her heart ached for her. It ached for this brilliant, powerful woman, who in the prime of her life had married a dead man. And she'd done it believing she was pregnant. Cassandra had probably already rehearsed in her mind 1,000 times the image of herself holding their child, the two of them facing a long, lonely life together. At the Shaw residence. "Sylvia, you should get some rest. Your mother and I are getting old. We still need you to manage our company in Vegas." As soon as they got home, Simon spoke to his daughter. No one was a fool. As parents who had seen it all, they understood that Sylvia had been deeply affected by the day's events. They just wanted their daughter to find her strength again. Sylvia said nothing. She walked straight into her bedroom, sat on the sofa, opened a drawer, and took out a necklace. Inside the locket was a photo of her and Liam as children. She stared at the photo for a long time. Just as she was about to put it away, her phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, she frowned. After a moment's hesitation, she answered. The voice of Wayne Giles from the UK consulate crackled through the phone. Miss Shaw, there's something I need to report to you. Go on. This afternoon, I saw that the young man you asked me to keep an eye on, Liam Lynn, came in to renew his residency permit. Hearing the name, Liam Lynn again, Sylvia's hand began to tremble. Her eyes flew open. What? Who did you say? Liam Lynn. Hearing the anger in her voice, Wayne's voice quavered. He was here to apply for a permit. The paperwork had to pass through my desk. I only saw his file and his headshot, not him in person. Send me his photo. Now. Sylvia was shaking all over. Wayne was fast. Within a minute, a secure file was sent to her phone. When she opened it and Liam's standard 1-inch photo appeared on the screen, Sylvia's eyes widened. Her heart began to pound, so fast she could barely breathe. She zoomed in on the photo, examining it over and over. It was his face, a perfect match to her memory. It was Liam. He was alive. Sylvia shot to her feet. When is he scheduled to pick up the permit? The appointment is for 3 days from now, but if we process it quickly, we could notify him to come in tomorrow. Make it tomorrow, Sylvia said without hesitation. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Make sure he's there. I'm leaving now. I'll be there late tonight. Yes, miss. Wayne hung up, breathing a sigh of relief. Hearing the dial tone, an unprecedented wave of excitement washed over Sylvia. She paced back and forth in front of the sofa. Forgetting for a moment how Liam had survived, the only thing that mattered was that he was alive. He was alive. She grabbed her phone, about to rush out and tell her father the good news. But her hand froze on the doorknob. If she told her father, it was the same as telling Cassandra Thorne. That very day, Cassandra had held a wedding for Liam. If she found out he was alive, she would be just as ecstatic. If Cassandra got to him first, or if Liam found out about the wedding, there would be no stopping them. And the fact that Liam was alive but hadn't shown his face in New York, hadn't even contacted Chloe and the others. That wasn't like the loyal, sentimental person she knew. Could he have lost his memory? The thought sent a tremor through her entire body. If he had amnesia, wasn't that exactly what she wanted? This time, she would be the first one to find him. Perhaps she could go and assess the situation first, and then decide what to do. Her mind made up, Sylvia decided to keep the news to herself. She booked a flight to the UK alone. The next morning, Sylvia, who had been waiting in a private lounge at the consulate for half the night, kept checking the time on her phone. 8:00, 9:00, 9:33. She was finally experiencing what it felt like for a day to feel like a year. At 10 o'clock sharp, Sylvia got up and walked toward Wayne Giles's office. After exchanging a look with him, she sat down on the sofa in his office's waiting area, her eyes glued to the door, waiting for that person to appear. September 2nd, 10:30 a.m. As Sylvia's anxiety reached a fever pitch, there was a knock on the office door. Wayne called, "Come in," and the door opened. But the person who entered was a disappointment. It was a blonde girl with 2 prominent patches of freckles on her sun-kissed skin. She was plain, but you could see the potential of a beauty that hadn't quite blossomed yet. Speaking in slightly broken Mandarin, she said politely to Wayne, "Mr. Giles, excuse me, is Liam Lynn's residency permit ready?" Though it wasn't Liam, the name made Sylvia's head snap up. Wayne glanced nervously at Sylvia before making something up. "Miss, the permit must be collected by the applicant in person. May I ask who you are?" "I'm Sandy Cho. I'm Liam's colleague," the girl replied timidly. "Liam is too busy with work to get away. This is a signed authorization note from him. Please take a look." She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to Wayne, who hesitated, looking to Sylvia for guidance. Sylvia frowned. As far as she knew, Liam had a fortune of at least $30 million. And this girl was saying he was working? Her amnesia theory grew stronger. She stood up. A signed note should be sufficient, shouldn't it? It's just a pickup, and the person himself is aware. It was never a question of whether it was allowed. Wayne was simply waiting for her instructions. He nodded quickly and handed the permit to Sandy. Sandy smiled gratefully at Sylvia. "Thank you, miss." "Don't mention it," Sylvia said coolly. "Your friend is quite trusting. Having a colleague pick up something as important as a residency permit." Sandy scratched her head, smiling shyly. "Today is Sunday, and school starts tomorrow, so our restaurant is especially busy today." "A restaurant? You work in a restaurant?" Sylvia's eyes lit up. "Yes." "Perfect. I was just wondering where to eat. Why don't you lead the way? I'll have a meal at your restaurant." Since she put it that way, Sandy didn't refuse. "St. Polydor's Bistro. After much effort, Sylvia finally saw him in the back kitchen, washing dishes. Just from his back, she knew. It was Liam. With 30 million in the bank, he was here washing dishes. What else could it be but amnesia? Suppressing her excitement, Sylvia was trying to figure out how to stage a memorable reunion with the amnesiac Liam when he suddenly turned around. In the bustling kitchen, their eyes met across the crowded room. She knew that face all too well. It was the face she had been dreaming of for weeks. The rush of excitement made her completely miss the slight arch of his eyebrow. In the bustling crowd, Sylvia's eyes reddened. Her world narrowed until only Liam was in it. The moment their eyes met, Sylvia's carefully laid plans dissolved into chaos. Before her perfect reunion could even begin, a tall, white man next to Liam shouted at her. "This is the kitchen, miss. Customers aren't allowed back here," he said, politely gesturing toward the door. But Sylvia stood rooted to the spot, unmoving. She raised a hand to her lips, her gaze still locked on Liam. Seeing that she wasn't budging, the man followed her line of sight to Liam. He looked confused. "Liam, is this a friend of yours?" Liam didn't answer. He just watched Sylvia silently. After a long moment, he raised a hand, pointed at her, and said deadpan, "Your fly's down." The beautiful, romantic reunion shattered into a million pieces. Sylvia glanced down at her pants and instinctively retorted, "I'm not wearing jeans." Liam replied with a smirk, "I'm just messing with you." Instantly, Sylvia's face flushed crimson. She pressed her lips together, said nothing, and marched toward Liam. She grabbed his arm without hesitation and started dragging him out of the kitchen. "Hey, Liam, there are still a dozen plates here." "You," the white man called out, but he was cut off as Sylvia pulled a wad of cash from her pocket and slapped it on the table. Her voice was urgent. "Have someone else do the work. I'm commandeering this man for a moment." The man's eyes went wide at the sight of the cash. He quickly stuffed it into his pocket and took Liam's place at the sink. Inside a private dining room for Chinese-speaking guests. Closing the door, Sylvia stood with her hands on her hips, staring at Liam, whom she had pushed down into a chair. Her expression was a storm of conflicting emotions. Liam, however, was a picture of calm. He sat quietly, watching her without a word. After a long silence, Sylvia couldn't hold back any longer. Do you know who I am?" It was the most direct way to test for amnesia. She watched his face intently, terrified of missing the slightest flicker of recognition. Under her fiery gaze, Liam's lips suddenly curved into a smile. "Of course I do," he said, his voice smooth. Sylvia's breath caught in her throat. So she pressed, "Who am I?" Liam's smile widened. "You're a customer who's here to eat." Sylvia was speechless. Only Liam could come up with such a slippery, infuriating answer. And that infuriatingly charming smile of his was exactly the same as before. The conversation ground to a halt. He must have lost his memory, she thought. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so calm after she'd finally found him. But Sylvia still wasn't convinced. She bit her lip. "That's not what I meant. I'm asking if you know my name." She stared at him, trying to read his expression. But Liam just kept smiling that same infuriating smile. He shook his head lightly. "Miss, if you have something to say, please say it. I have to get back to washing dishes." He really had lost his memory. She was sure of it now. They had too much history. If he remembered any of it, he could never fake such a placid expression. "It's nothing," Sylvia said, a wave of relief washing over her. She sat down, her composure returning. "Just get me your deluxe combo meal." "Of course." Liam nodded and walked out of the room. The moment the door closed, Liam's expression hardened. He wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead, thankful his performance had been convincing. Amnesia? The Landons had needed to use their most sophisticated methods to rewrite his memories when he was a child. Now that he was an adult, it wasn't that simple. If you could get amnesia just by falling into the ocean, wouldn't every unhappy person in the world be lining up to take a dive? He had figured that using his real name to get a residency permit might attract attention, but he hadn't expected Sylvia to be the first one to show up. "Liam, I was just looking for you." Sandy's voice echoed down the hall. Liam turned and walked toward her. "Here's your permit. See? I told you someone else couldn't pick it up. Luckily, that nice lady helped me out, otherwise I don't know what I would have done." Sandy chattered as she dug through her pockets. She was really pretty, too. So elegant. Probably some rich heiress. Liam didn't need to be told. He knew exactly who she was. He took the permit, pulled out 2 bills, and handed them to her. "Thanks. This is for your trouble." Sandy raised an eyebrow, took the money with a grin, and said, "Sure thing. If you have any more errands like this, you know who to call. I'm always broke." "Deal," Liam said. He placed Sylvia's order at the front counter and went back to the kitchen. "You dog, you know a girl that beautiful, and you've been keeping her a secret." The white guy who had covered for him slung an arm around his shoulder. Liam just smiled, a little tiredly, and didn't say a word. Sylvia didn't reappear. As usual, once the lunch rush died down around 2 in the afternoon, Liam finished his work. He grabbed his backpack and headed to the subway with Sandy. But just as they reached the entrance, Sylvia appeared again. "It's you. Miss, thank you so much for your help today. I don't know what I would have done without you." Sandy was friendly, smiling at Sylvia while grabbing Liam's arm. "Liam, this is the girl I was telling you about." Seeing Sandy clutching Liam's arm, Sylvia's face instantly darkened. She moved forward to grab his other arm, but Liam sidestepped her before she could touch him. He looked at her with a reserved expression. "Miss, I'm not that kind of guy." The words were so ridiculous that Liam himself almost burst out laughing. But Sylvia, convinced he had amnesia, was stunned. That's right. He didn't remember anything that had happened between them. What was she doing? Pushing him? Making him hate her even more? The thought sent a jolt of panic through her. She bit her lip, her eyes fixed on Liam. "Don't you remember? We used to be very good friends." After a long pause, she decided to keep her distance for now. Amnesia wasn't a problem. Feelings could be nurtured again. Didn't Liam want freedom above all else? When his memory returned, he would surely see the difference between her and Cassandra. Perhaps he would choose differently. Perhaps he would choose her. But she had miscalculated badly. The very night she flew to the UK, Haley Liu, who had been keeping the Shaw family under constant surveillance, was already aware of her movements. Now, at the Thorne estate, after a sleepless night of deliberation, Haley and Evelyn decided to knock on Cassandra's door. "Enter." At Cassandra's flat command, Evelyn pushed the door open. As usual, Cassandra was on the sofa, reading. A yoga mat and some simple fitness equipment lay on the floor beside her. She was still in her workout clothes. The sunlight streaming and made her skin look almost translucent. She was leaning back languidly, and under the tight-fitting fabric, her stomach showed a slight, gentle curve. Evelyn knew it was just from the nutrient-rich diet she'd been on. "Is there something?" Cassandra's voice was cool, her eyes still on her book. Evelyn took a deep breath. "Ma'am, Sylvia Shaw. She went to the UK. She left last night." Cassandra's eyebrows arched slightly. The hand holding the book lowered a few inches. "What is she doing there?" "Haley says she went to the consulate first, and then to a restaurant. Apparently, just to eat." Cassandra shot her a look, then set the book down, her tone laced with scorn. "She flew halfway across the world just for a meal. Do you believe that?" Evelyn knew how ridiculous it sounded. She shook her head. "I know it's not realistic, but the only thing that could make Sylvia Shaw move that fast is—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't want to give Cassandra hope only to have it ripped away again. It had been hard enough for her to maintain her current fragile stability. If something else happened, Evelyn didn't think she could bear the pain of watching her fall apart again. But Cassandra understood. Though her face was calm, the trembling of the hand clutching the book betrayed her. She narrowed her eyes, about to give an order, when she instinctively placed a hand on her stomach. "Can I fly while I'm pregnant?" "You can, but that's all I need to know. Get the jet ready. Now." Cassandra shot to her feet, her voice no longer calm, only filled with a raw, desperate urgency. Evelyn nodded and immediately rushed to make the arrangements. In front of St. Polydor's Bistro. "Liam, so she really was an old friend of yours. No wonder she helped me out," Sandy said, finally understanding. She extended a hand to Sylvia. "Hi, I'm Sandy Cho. I'm Liam's colleague." Sylvia already knew all this, but to get closer to Liam, she forced a smile. "Hello." Then she looked at Liam. Liam, can I talk to you alone for a moment?" Sensing the mood, Sandy quickly made herself scarce. "Well, I won't disturb you too. You talk, I'll get going." "Wait." Liam, who had been silent, spoke up. He looked at Sylvia, his expression flat. "Miss, I want to be clear. I don't want to talk about the past. And I don't want you to come looking for me again." This was the whole point of faking amnesia. He didn't want his friends to get hurt because of him anymore. Not Sylvia, not anyone. It didn't matter who. The old Liam was dead. Now, he was just himself, free from having to answer to anyone. If any of his friends got into trouble again, he could righteously and justifiably choose not to save them. His words hit Sylvia like a punch to the gut. She was stunned. She never expected him to be so cruel. But he had amnesia. Wasn't this kind of cruelty normal? Watching Liam turn and walk away with Sandy, Sylvia stood in silence for a long time. She didn't follow. Dejected, she went back into the restaurant, sat at a table by the window, and ordered a Coke. She stared out at the street. She had seen Liam's attitude. Even upon meeting again, his eyes were as calm as a frozen lake, without a single ripple of emotion. After everything she'd been through, seeing him again, that obsessive need for him seemed to have faded. Maybe it was seeing Cassandra walk down the aisle to marry a dead man. Or maybe it was watching Liam jump into the sea without a second thought. For the first time, she felt her obsession was a little ridiculous. All this effort, chasing a man who didn't love her. What was she even doing? Sylvia laughed at herself. A new, malicious thought sparked in her mind. She suddenly wanted to see Cassandra's reaction when she saw the new, amnesiac Liam. Would she, like Sylvia, give up when he said, "I don't want to talk about the past. Don't come looking for me"? Cassandra was such a proud woman. Her expression would surely be priceless. Sylvia smiled, didn't order any more food, and just sat by the window, lost in thought. On the subway. "Aren't you curious about your past?" Sandy, who had been bottling it up the whole ride, finally asked. Liam shook his head. "The past is the past. You have to look forward." "You're pretty philosophical," Sandy quipped and didn't say any more. Seeing that Sylvia hadn't followed them onto the train, Liam breathed a sigh of relief. Faking amnesia was a surprisingly effective tactic. He should have tried it sooner. But this time, Liam had underestimated the problem. Or rather, he had never truly grasped that Cassandra's feelings for him were etched into her very bones, a love that would defy even death. Just as a subway train pulled out of the station, Cassandra Thorne arrived at St. Polydor's Bistro. As she pushed open the door, she came face to face with Sylvia, who had been waiting for her. "I figured you'd find out. I just didn't expect you to actually have my family under surveillance," Sylvia said, sitting up straight, meeting Cassandra's anxious gaze without flinching. Under that burning stare, Sylvia dropped all pretense. With a deliberately provocative tone, she delivered the words Cassandra was desperate to hear. "Liam's not dead. He's alive. He got off work and went home just 2 hours ago." In that instant, Cassandra's frantic heart stopped. A floodgate of grief, longing, and relief opened, and tears streamed from her eyes. But before she could even savor the joy, Sylvia's voice cut through the air again, this time laced with the smug tone of someone enjoying a good show. "But he's lost his memory. He said he doesn't want to talk about the past, and he told me to stay away from him." The implication was clear. I got rejected. No matter how deep your love is, you'll get the same treatment. But Cassandra simply took the tissue Evelyn handed her, dabbed her eyes, and shot Sylvia a look of pure, unadulterated resolve. "That's you. You should stay away. I am his wife. Even if he's lost his memory, he will never, ever get rid of me in this lifetime." It was a declaration of war. The words were harsh, but Sylvia didn't get angry. Instead, she watched Cassandra with keen interest. "It seems you don't understand Liam at all," Sylvia said, picking up her coffee cup with a mocking smile. Cassandra's expression hardened, her reddened eyes turning icy. "I don't need anyone else's opinion on whether I understand him or not." She spun around to Evelyn. "Prepare the Stanton estate. I want to see him immediately." The meaning was clear. She would have him, even if she had to drag him there in chains. Evelyn's heart lurched. She knew her boss had suffered immensely these past few weeks. Her current restraint was already a miracle. She didn't hesitate. "Yes, ma'am." Sylvia's expression changed. She looked at Cassandra in shock. "You're going to force him?" To her surprise, Cassandra laughed. "He's my husband. My husband has lost his way. Is it not reasonable for a wife to help him find it?" "You." Seeing the confident smile playing on Cassandra's face, Sylvia's composure finally cracked. "He has amnesia. I didn't even force him. How can you do this?" "What I do is none of your concern," Cassandra snapped, turning and striding out of the restaurant with Evelyn right behind her. Watching them disappear, Sylvia didn't give chase. A man who would rather jump into the ocean than compromise, even with amnesia, would never bend to Cassandra's domineering will. This time, Sylvia wasn't in a hurry. Cassandra could talk all she wanted about being his wife, but it was just a ceremony. They weren't legally married. With Liam alive, Cassandra was, by law, at a disadvantage. Sylvia was calm now. She knew Cassandra's actions would only push Liam further away. With Cassandra in the middle, she couldn't make a move. But when Liam inevitably rejected her, Cassandra would finally have to give up for good. She sipped her Coke and pulled out her phone, sending a text to one of her aides. "Find me a place near St. Polydor's Bistro. I'll be staying here for a while." After getting off the subway, Liam arrived at his small, single-person apartment in Chinatown. Back in his room, he flopped onto his bed and instinctively reached for his phone. The moment he unlocked it, he remembered he had a new UK number. He had deleted all his old apps long ago. He had thought he'd escaped and had no plans to return anytime soon, so he hadn't bothered to follow the news from back home. But now, Sylvia had found him, which meant she would be here soon. He and Cassandra hadn't seen each other in over half a month. All this time, he told himself he wanted her to give up on him. But now, with Sylvia standing before him, a strange sense of anticipation began to bubble up inside him. No matter how hard he suppressed it, the anticipation was turning into a quiet excitement. He was a real piece of work. He'd made the decision to disappear from everyone's lives. Yet, deep down, a part of him was hoping she would come for him. Staring at his phone screen, he finally gave in and re-downloaded all his old news apps. As he watched the progress bars fill, he couldn't help but laugh at himself. "I really am a pathetic bastard," he mumbled. He tossed the phone onto the bed, about to take a shower to clear his head, when there was a knock on the door. Liam's eyes narrowed. He got up and went to open it. The moment the door swung open, he saw a face he knew all too well. Evelyn Reed. Seeing Liam, Evelyn's eyes widened in shock. Even though she had mentally prepared herself for this on the way over, seeing him alive and in the flesh was still a jolt. They had searched the open sea for 7 days with a dozen helicopters and a fleet of rescue boats, and found nothing. And now here he was, having cheated death, standing right in front of her. Evelyn was so stunned she just stared, forgetting for a moment why she had come. The atmosphere in the hallway became incredibly awkward. "I knew she'd come, but I didn't think it would be this fast. When you have money, you really can go anywhere you want." Liam sighed internally. He still didn't want to get dragged back into that mess. He cleared his throat. "Miss, can I help you?" So he really has lost his memory. Evelyn frowned. For the first time, she really looked at him. Peering past him, she saw the tiny, 300-square-foot apartment. A simple desk, a canvas backpack, the standard kit of an international student. On Liam, with his handsome face, the look transformed him into a recent graduate. And with his supposed amnesia, the confusion in his eyes made him look as pure and innocent as a college kid. Seeing this, Evelyn felt a little guilty about her plan to just kidnap him. She hesitated, then said, "My water pipe is broken. Can you help me take a look?" The excuse was so bad, Liam didn't even know how to respond. The air in the hallway thickened with awkwardness. In fact, the moment the words left Evelyn's mouth, she regretted them. She could feel her toes curling in her shoes from the cringe. Seeing Liam's still baffled expression, she stomped her foot, whipped out a syringe, and jabbed it into his neck. Liam never saw it coming. Who knew Evelyn would play so dirty? Before he could react, the contents of the syringe were injected into his system. The next second, his vision went black, and he collapsed. As he faded into unconsciousness, he heard Evelyn shout, "Hurry up, get him downstairs and into the car." Then nothing. When he woke up again, it was dark. His head was spinning. His body felt like it had been through a roller coaster, completely disconnected from his core. He forced his eyes open. Through a haze, his gaze landed on the sofa across the room. And there she was, that achingly familiar person, sitting calmly, a book in her hands, engrossed in its pages. Cassandra? Liam's head swam. He blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. But the person on the sofa was, without a doubt, Cassandra Thorne. His world tilted. His mind went blank. He didn't understand. Right now, in this moment, he just didn't understand. Why? Why was she so calm?